Skyrim, the most popular and recognizable installment in the Elder Scrolls series, featuring a harsh, snowy landscape crippled by a war that happened 20 years ago and is now on the brink of yet another war, where bandit and vampire attacks are up, the economy is down, and now dragons have returned for the first time in centuries to wreak havoc on what remains of the land. That is, unless a hero rises from the ash to destroy all of Skyrim's foes, especially those pesky dragons. Not because it's the right thing to do, not for honor or redemption, but because this road will lead to our hero acquiring great power and hidden secrets. But first, meet Teloth Telvanni, our Skyrim hero that is not a Nord, not an Imperial, and not even a Spanish-speaking Argonian, but a Dark Elf. We will speak more on his story in a moment, but this journey begins when Teloth wakes up on a cart full of foreign strangers. And here's the famous words from Ralof.
Hey, you're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right? Walked right into that Imperial ambush, same as us, and that thief over there.
It was here that Teloth learned he was captured by the Imperial Legion and that he was on a cart with a bunch of Nords who rebelled against the Empire and some random horse thief. And it was in this moment that Teloth realized he was likely going to meet his end, as it was very clear the Empire wasn't carting everyone off to a sweet roll soiree. Especially since he was sharing a seat with the damned leader of the Nord Rebellion, a man named Ulfric Stormcloak. After some time on the trail, Ralof introduces Teloth to his head captor, the leader of the Imperial Legion in Skyrim.
Look at him. General Tullius, the military governor. And it looks like the Thalmor are with him. Damn elves. I bet they had something to do with this.
The Thalmor, a faction made up of mostly High Elves or Altmer, who are the complete opposite of the Dark Elves culturally and religiously, and no friends of Teloth. Ralof mentions they are in the town of Helgen, which feels more like a fortress than a village, making Teloth all the more certain that his end was nigh, which was really quite annoying.
Let's go. Shouldn't keep the gods waiting for us.
One by one, everyone was called out.
Ulfric Stormcloak, Jarl of Windhelm, Ralof of Riverwood,
including Lokir the horse thief who ran and was shot in his Lokir's heel. Then one of the Imperials calls Teloth, but not by his name like the others.
Who are you?
Well, that is a simple yet complicated question. His name is Teloth Telvanni, a Dunmer who was born on the Isle of Port Telvannis, northeast of Morrowind, which is the capital of House Telvanni, one of the 5 great houses that rule Morrowind, whose domain is magic, power, and secrets. House Telvanni is also known for its might makes right attitude, where disputes between Telvanni wizards are resolved through duels. One dispute occurred between some upstart wizard and Teloth's master named Endar Drenham, who was once the apprentice of the legendary Master Neloth. Teloth did not know when and how this rivalry began. All he knew is that this wizard hired an army of mercenaries that were mostly Bretons and Wood Elves to storm his master's mushroom tower, killing everyone including his master, but left Teloth alive to serve as an example to the other Telvanni counselors. Teloth was blinded in his left eye and banished from House Telvanni, stripped of all his privileges and his rank as lawman. He wandered aimlessly across Morrowind, then Cyrodiil, and found himself on the border into Skyrim, where he was captured by the damned Imperials.
Another refugee? Gods really have abandoned your people, Dark Elf.
I'm sorry, what? A refugee? Did you not listen to my super cool backstory? The Imperial soldier Hadvar mentions that our hero is not on the list to be executed, but the apathetic Imperial captain does not care and sentences Teloth to death anyways. General Tullius begins berating a gagged Ulfric Stormcloak, but stops when a strange noise is overheard. But the noise must have been the wind, surely, and the executions begin with one Stormcloak soldier interrupting a priest's sermon so that he could die quicker.
For the love of Talos, shut up and let's get this over with.
Nords, always rushing to death for no good reason. Unfortunately, the dark humor stops when the Imperial captain demands Teloth be executed next, which is not as humorous.
Next, the Dark Elf!
The strange noise is heard again, and our hero suspects it's not just the wind anymore. But sadly, this is a puzzle that our dear Telvanni warrior will never get to solve.
What in oblivion is that?
Sentries, what do you see?
By Malakath's ballsack, that is a damned dragon! Teloth can't even begin to comprehend the arrival of such a legendary creature, as it seems hell-bent on destroying all of Helgen and those within, including this dark elf.
Could the legends be true?
Legends don't burn down villages.
After Ulfric says a quote that goes really hard, one that Teloth will steal when he writes his autobiography on all this, he and Ralof ascend up the tower to find a way out. Which honestly doesn't seem that smart an idea, but luckily the dragon plays peekaboo with Teloth and gives him a way to escape down to the ground. Unfortunately, he runs into the Imperial Hadvar, but luckily he's sensible enough to throw the law to the wind and focus on escaping. After a close call where Teloth was close enough to the dragon to smell his breath, which smelled like brimstone and ash if you were wondering, and being berated by General Tullius himself,
Run, you idiot!
Teloth is left with a decision, either escaping Helgen with the Nord rebel Ralof, or the Imperial soldier Hadvar, both being poor options for a Dunmer of House Telvanni. But before Teloth can make a decision on who would prove more useful to him, the dragon makes the decision for him and shouts our hero towards Ralof. Teloth is cut free from his bindings and proceeds to loot his friend's corpse, taking his axe and armor, even though Teloth finds the Nord craftsmanship to be barbaric and primitive. Not like the cool and based insect and bone mold armors from Morrowind, which are the pinnacle of a refined society. When attempting to break through a gate, the same Imperial captain that wrongly ordered Teloth's execution appeared, and it was time for him to get his revenge by ambushing and scorching her with some dollar store flame spell. After she fell rather meekly, Teloth took a key off her corpse and proceeded further into the bowels of the dungeons of Helgen. Our Telvanni hero cut through swaths of Imperial soldiers, looted some potions, and found a torture room, which he found to be quite disappointing, as the torture rooms in Morrowind were far more effective and efficient. The Imperials are truly barbaric compared to the superior Dark Elves. He managed to loot the corpse of an imprisoned mage without even opening the gate to get inside, as his gear would be a nice start for a Telvanni battle mage attempting to get off his feet. Teloth also finds a book called The Book of the Dragonborn, which looks intriguing at first, but the information is probably useless to Teloth. I mean, who cares about the Dragonborns that died out 200 years ago during the Oblivion Crisis? Not like there's gonna be any more. After equipping the novice robes and feeling quite fresh and refined, Teloth proceeds deeper into the dungeons, killing more Imperials and almost roasting the other Stormcloak rebels he and Ralof saved. Not that Teloth cares if they live or die, of course. Teloth and Ralof leave the rebels behind and proceed beyond the dungeons of Helgen into some caves, where they kill some overgrown frostbite spiders, which annoys Teloth because what's next? Giant snakes? Giant people? More than one dragon?
Hold up! There's a bear just ahead. See her?
Yes, Ralof, I see the bear. And finally, after all that chaos and drama with that dragon, Teloth has finally escaped Helgen, and his journey is far from over. Teloth emerges into the great big and cold landscape of Skyrim. and parts with Ralof for a time to clear his head and also kill some bandits and take their armor. Like this iron armor, which is primitive but useful for now. While thinking on the significance of the return of the dragons and what he can do to benefit from the current crisis, he happens upon a shrine to the imperial god and founder of the Third Empire, Talos, and many dead worshippers, including one Thalmor agent. Teloth knows and cares little about the Thalmor, but he figures this was some lone agent and that the Thalmor are no serious threat. But he does take his armor because what self-respecting mage wouldn't? He then comes across 3 of the 13 standing stones that dot Skyrim's landscape, pillars associated with the constellations in the sky and can grant an individual a specific ability. But naturally, when presented with a choice between the warrior, thief, and mage stones, Teloth was obviously going to choose the mage stone because he is of the great House Telvanni. After finding an old lady deep in the wilderness,
I'm just a poor old woman, dear. No need to trouble yourself with me.
And robbing her blind, as well as uncovering she is secretly a witch and killing her in self-defense, crazy side story this one, Teloth makes it to Riverwood where he meets up with Ralof and his sister, Gerdur. Gerdur offers Teloth safe harbor as well as supplies in exchange for telling the Jarl of Whiterun, who owns the land of Riverwood, about the dragon attack given Teloth saw it firsthand. Teloth stays the night in Gerdur's house and takes everything he can find, as it's more useful in his hands than theirs. Afterwards, he talks to Ralof, Gerdur, and her husband about the current events happening in Skyrim. Ralof insists that Teloth should join the Stormcloak Rebellion. However, he would rather jump into a volcano than ally himself with a bunch of Nords he knows nothing about, even if the Empire sucks ash.
Yeah, sure, I understand. No need to decide now. But I know that after you think about what you saw today, you'll realize that Skyrim deserves to be free.
Gerdur gave a lay of the land, but was also too supportive of the Stormcloaks to give him an objective opinion.
Don't worry, though. Ulfric is our rightful High King. He'll drive out the Empire, and Skyrim will have peace at last.
Weirdly enough, that does not sound so reassuring. Her husband Hod, however, was refreshing to speak to, as he only cares for his family and not the mundane politics of the world.
I've got enough to worry about, taking care of my family. I don't concern myself with such matters.
Now, Teloth was not allowed to sleep in any of the beds, except for the one that Gerdur was sleeping in, so, you know. After getting some much-needed rest, among other things, Teloth stopped by the general goods store to sell off many items he acquired from Helgen and around Riverwood, as well as purchase some spells for his use. But when he entered the store, the shopkeep was arguing with his sister about a thief, which made Teloth quite curious.
Yeah, we did have a bit of a break-in, but we still have plenty to sell. Robbers were only after one thing. An ornament, solid gold in the shape of a dragon's claw.
Teloth could smell the opportunity and power on the horizon, so he enlists himself to aid Lucan, with his sister Camilla Valerius giving him instructions on how to get to Bleak Falls Barrow, where the thieves reside. As Teloth climbed up the mountain, he couldn't help but think back on the dragon in Helgen that actually saved his life. Where did the dragon come from? Was it hiding all these years? Was it resurrected or dominated to serve someone's goals? Did it travel through time? And more importantly, why did this dragon attack Helgen at such a politically tense moment, where both Imperials, Thalmor, and Stormcloaks were all gathered? To take everyone out in one fell swoop, or to keep each of the leaders alive? Not that Teloth cares about the politics of Skyrim, of course, but understanding the motives of a dragon could prove very useful. After slaying a few bandits and practicing a little bit of necromancy, he finally makes it to Bleak Falls Barrow and cuts his way inside. Many dead bandits exist inside the entrance to the barrow, killed by unknown means, but the corpses are useful enough to raise so they can help Teloth kill those that remain. Teloth is not against the practice of necromancy, however, he is also not the most enthusiastic, as he feels summoned Daedric creatures are far more formidable and reliable. But alas, he has forgotten most of those conjuration spells currently and must make do with what he knows. After watching a bandit get drenched in poisonous darts and die, Teloth encounters one of the easiest puzzles he has ever seen in his life. One that a blind barbaric orc could easily solve in seconds, proving this bandit was the most brain dead in all of Skyrim. Though Teloth speculates the puzzle wasn't meant to keep people out, but instead keep something in. After becoming a rat catcher and proceeding further in the barrow, Teloth encounters a massive spider who has captured one of the bandits. Luckily, Teloth stole a powerful paralysis poison from that witch he robbed and murdered, so the fight was actually very easy. When the giant spider is dead, Teloth has a little chat with the bandit named Arvel the Swift, a fellow Dunmer.
Yes, the claw. I know how it works. The claw, the markings, the door in the Hall of Stories. I know how they all fit together. Help me down and I'll show you. You won't believe the power the Nords have hidden there.
Teloth's gut tells him Arvel is not to be trusted and should be killed, but because he finally met another Dark Elf, he feels compassionate and helps him down.
It's coming loose. I can feel it. You fool. Why should I share the treasure with anyone?
Well, if there was any evidence showing that compassion was a weakness, this was it. Arvel tries to run, but Teloth quickly follows behind. But foolishly, they walk right into the undead. Buried Nords from ancient times called Draugr rise to slay Arvel and Teloth. They easily kill Arvel, likely because he is inferior, unlike those of the great house Telvanni. But Teloth manages to slay them all and proceed further into the barrow. He encounters many more undead, harvests some iron ore, loots some chests, and makes it to a part of the tomb called the Hall of Stories, which contain carved walls dedicated to the Nords' ancient gods before they abandoned them in favor of the imperial gods. Teloth is faced with a door that has a keyhole shaped like the Dragon Claw, and after confirming Arvel's notes to ensure it wasn't some trap, he opens the door with the claw and enters the final room in the barrow. The inside is truly beautiful in a dark and old way, but as he gets closer to this strange wall, he begins hearing voices chanting, and something within Teloth compels him to approach the strange wall. Foos, a word that is unknown to Teloth, echoes in his mind, as if it is being said by another being, one not of this world. Before Teloth can make a hypothesis on what just occurred, a powerful Draugr breaks out of his coffin with only violence on its mind. The Draugr unleashed a powerful form of magic with but its voice, making Teloth stumble from the force unleashed. This is ancient Nord magic that Dark Elves have not seen since the Battle of Red Mountain thousands of years ago. It was a difficult fight, but as expected, the superior Telvanni warrior emerges victorious, if scarred. And on the corpse of the Draugr overlord is a unique stone ingrained with the map of Skyrim and various locations being marked. What this stone is, Teloth does not know, but he holds on to it as it could prove useful to the right scholar or mage. After desecrating some altar, Teloth emerges into the outside world of Skyrim once again. After tackling some necromancer and helping a wood elf named Feindal screw over a bard named Sven to gain the affections of Camilla Valerius,
you can tell Sven that he already has a mother. I'm not speaking to him anymore.
Teloth returns the Golden Claw to Lucan and is rewarded with a decent amount of gold and proceeds to gain even more gold by selling his many items he found on his adventure.
You found it! There it is! Strange. It seems smaller than I remember. Funny thing, huh?
Afterwards, Teloth returns to Faendal to tell him the deceitful news, which he commends Faendal on doing as it is the Telvanni way. Backstabbing and lying and doing whatever it takes to get ahead. Though it is a little pathetic this was all in the attempts to get the affections of a girl.
Lead the way.
And in return, Faendal enlists his services to Teloth, which our Telvanni hero accepts, as he could use a henchman for now, at least until he finds someone stronger and more loyal. Teloth makes his way to the city of Whiterun to inform the Jarl of the dragon attack, but also taking his time to collect as many flowers and alchemical ingredients as he can find. He encounters warriors trying to take down a giant of all things, and Teloth lends his magic to support the fighters. Afterwards, some woman wearing far too little armor gives him a sales pitch on joining some fighters guild called the Companions. But Teloth thinks that's a waste of time. He's quite sure they won't be consequential later in his life.
Well, nobody asked you. If you think you're better than we are, go talk to Codlac Whitemane. See what a warrior of true metal is like.
After making some easy gold picking crops for a sensible man named Severio Pelagia,
honest pay for honest work,
Teloth makes his way to the gates of Whiterun but is stopped by one of the guards.
Halt! City's closed with the dragons about. Official business only.
Which Teloth thought was annoying and unnecessary, but after explaining he has news from Helgen, he is let in immediately. When Teloth first enters Whiterun, one of the first people he meets is a Nord named John, who asks him what his business is. And when Teloth tells him he seeks fortune and power, he says,
"You need only ask about it. Plenty of folk in Whiterun with too much fat and gold to be bothered doing anything for themselves."
Teloth realizes that if he wants to gain wealth, prominence, and more importantly, power, he will need to take on the role of a mercenary and help out the citizenry with their mundane issues. So he neglects telling the Jarl about the impending dragon attack and does a bunch of side quests instead, like becoming a blacksmith apprentice to Adrian Avenici, demanding a bard named Mikael stop flirting with a single mother, making sure a destitute drunk stays that way by feeding into his habit, stealing a mammoth tusk for Isolde so she can trade it to Khajiit merchants for insider knowledge, retrieving a sword that was stolen by bandits for Amryn, chopping wood for Hulda at the Bannered Mare Inn, smashing skeletons for Anders, the priest of Arkay, and retrieving his amulet, as well as stealing an unusual gem from the Hall of the Dead, but I'm sure that won't lead to anything down the line. And finally, threatening a little girl to stop bullying a boy she secretly likes but doesn't know how to properly express her feelings towards him. All in a day's work. Not only did Teloth do a bunch of jobs for people and got paid for it, but also robbed many of them in the process for twice the reward, as is the Telvanni way. And now he's practically famous in Whiterun, which is sure to impress the Jarl. Oh fuck, speaking of which, Teloth completely forgot he needs to tell him about the dragons and whatever. When he enters the Jarl's palace known as Dragon's Reach, he is stopped by the Jarl's housecarl named Irileth, another Dunmer but more competent than fucking Arvel. Once Teloth tells Irileth he was at Helgen, she allows him to approach Jarl Balgruf the Greater, whose name makes Teloth wonder what his father and grandfather were like. He tells him how he saw the dragon when he was about to have his head lopped off like a corkscrew and barely escaped alive.
Really? You're certainly forthright about your criminal past.
When Teloth confirms everyone's worst fears, the Jarl's court discusses what to do about the situation.
We should
Enough! I'll not stand idly by while a dragon burns my hold and slaughters my people. Irileth, send a detachment to Riverwood at once.
And after Balgruf demands guards be sent to defend Riverwood given its proximity to Helgen, the Jarl has a new job for us.
Come, let's go find Farengar, my court wizard. He's been looking into a matter related to these dragons and rumors of dragons.
We approach the court wizard named Farengar, who seems annoyed and preoccupied, but Teloth uses his knowledge of the arcane arts to smooth things over with him.
What? I never even cast it. Ah, I see. You have some knowledge of the higher art. Please forgive my earlier rudeness. I am so often interrupted by visitors wandering in, I can occasionally become quite savage.
Farengar needs assistance fetching an item of great significance to help with his research into the dragons. But as a fellow scholar, Teloth just had to ask what the item has to do with the dragons in the first place.
Ah, no mere brute mercenary, but a thinker. Perhaps even a scholar? You see, when the stories of dragons began to circulate, many dismissed them as mere fantasies, rumors, impossibilities. One sure mark of a fool is to dismiss anything that falls outside his experience as being impossible. But I began to search for information about dragons. Where had they gone all those years ago? And where were they coming from?
It seems Farengar and Teloth are of a singular mind, which is a nice breath of fresh air in this barbaric land, for Teloth has many theories about the dragons, theories he wants to confirm or dismiss. Anyway, Farengar wants this same Dragonstone Teloth retrieved from Bleak Falls Barrow. And it's fortunate that Teloth is brilliant like all the Telvanni and knew it would be significant down the line, so he gives it to Farengar and asks for a reward.
You'll have to see the Jarl about that, maybe his steward Avenici. I'm sure one of them will pay you appropriately.
Before Teloth can go to the Jarl and take him for all he's got, Irileth barges in and says the dragon has been spotted nearby and that everyone must report to the Jarl, including Teloth. Jumping at the chance to see this dragon again and gain more insight, he follows Irileth, and when they get to the Jarl, a guard says the dragon was spotted circling over the western watchtower, and Balgruf tasks Irileth as well as Teloth with taking the dragon down.
There's no time to stand on ceremony, my friend. I need your help again. I want you to go with Irileth and help her fight this dragon. You survived Helgen, so you have more experience with dragons than anyone else here.
Afterwards, the Jarl rewards Teloth for his previous work, and now our Telvanni hero must prepare himself for a legendary fight. One that will be sung in stories and taught by scholars all over Tamriel, and perhaps make the Telvanni Council jealous for kicking Teloth out. And so Teloth prepares by purchasing many spells from Farengar, enchanting and disenchanting various items, mixing all the ingredients he's hoarded to make potions and poisons, giving Feindal a pep talk. Okay, listen here, Feindal. You are either going to get super laid by Camilla after killing this dragon, or you are going to die horrifically in the worst way imaginable. Not gonna lie, you look like a guy that's gonna get fucked. And not in the good way, but in the really bad way. Like, horrifically fucked. With fire, and teeth, and jaws. Again, I cannot stress this enough, not in the good way, but in the deadly way. And after selling various items to the traders in Whiterun, he marches towards the Western Watchtower. He meets up with Irileth and her detachment of soldiers and proceed to investigate the destroyed tower that looks like it's been burned to the ground. Teloth finds one of the guards who survives and he says,
"No, get back. It's still here somewhere. Rocky and Tor just got grabbed when they tried to make a run for it." Kinneret, save us. Here he comes again.
Finally, the moment he's been waiting for has finally arrived. The dragon is here, but this time Teloth is ready and prepared, and also has a detachment of soldiers at his back. Teloth lets the guards rain arrows upon the dragon, and when it lands to rest, our Telvanni hero uses alteration to make his skin as strong as stone, and conjuration to summon a fire atronach to hurl fireballs, and charges the winged beast with his blade, making sure to attack it from the sides to avoid its massive jaws and breaths of hellfire. It was a long and difficult fight, but Teloth manages to press his advantage when the dragon is weak, and use a flurry of sword strikes and eventually slays the dragon. The first person in at least 5 centuries to do so, Teloth estimates. But something most unexpected happens when the dragon dies.
can't believe it. You're Dragonborn.
Teloth had completely absorbed the dragon's soul until all that was left was bone, and now the Nords around him begin proclaiming him as Dragonborn, a title that confuses Teloth as it was one used by the Dragonborn Emperors of Cyrodiil, not Telvanni lawmen of Morrowind. But Teloth thinks back to the strange wall he saw at Bleak Falls Barrow, and remembered the word it echoed into his mind: Foos. The guards say that only the Dragonborn can shout without training, and asks Teloth to do so. And when our fabled hero yells out the word, it echoes as a word of power.
Voice of the Dragonborn. You really are Dragonborn, then?
Teloth cannot even begin to describe his fascination and excitement. As a Telvanni, he has always searched for power in all forms, but who knew great power lay dormant in his blood? Or was perhaps granted to him by the Dark Elf gods known as the Reclamations, or the ancestor spirits that the Empire worships like Akatosh or Kinnereth? He decides to get more insight from Jarl Balgruf, who is likely more knowledgeable on the subject than he, but while coming up with theories, the ground beneath him starts to shake. Powerful shouts saying the word Dovahkiin emanate from a fortress Teloth can barely see coming from the massive mountain. This is clearly no coincidence. Someone is calling to Teloth. After picking a bunch of flowers in front of people's homes, which should probably be illegal but isn't, Teloth heads back to Dragon's Reach to speak to Balgruf, who speaks of the Greybeards.
So it's true. The Greybeards really were summoning you. Masters of the Way of the Voice. They live in seclusion high on the slopes of the throat of the world. The Dragonborn is said to be uniquely gifted in the voice, the ability to focus your vital essence into a thume, or shout. If you really are Dragonborn, they can teach you how to use your gift.
Balgruf's brother, Hrongar, tells Teloth that the Greybeards summoning Teloth is a tremendous honor, as the last person to be summoned was Tiber Septim, Talos himself, before conquering all of Tamriel. This intrigues Teloth greatly, and now he desperately wants to learn more about his power and how to effectively wield it, and test his new limits. After Balgruf agrees with his brother and mentions how he once made the pilgrimage to High Hrothgar himself, the monastery of the Greybeards, he rewards Teloth for his tremendous deeds in protecting the city from the dragon.
You've done a great service for me and my city, Dragonborn. By my right as Jarl, I name you Thane of Whiterun. It's the greatest honor that's within my power to grant. I assign you Lydia as a personal housecarl, and this weapon from my armory to serve as your badge of office. I'll also notify my guards of your new title. Wouldn't want them to think you're part of the common rabble, now would we? We are honored to have you as Thane of our city, Dragonborn.
An axe, a noble title, and a henchman to boot, which are fitting rewards given Teloth did also aid half the city with their mundane problems on top of killing a fucking dragon. But first, Teloth decides to take a walk and clear his head, to sort out everything that had just happened to him these past few days. Even the great Telvanni, who take everything in stride, can only handle so much. But there is one thing he realizes as he strolls down the Great Plains of Whiterun Hold. The dragon he slew called itself Myrmilnir. And more importantly, that was not the same dragon as the one that destroyed Helgen, confirming that there are multiple dragons, all likely working together, which is an intriguing thought. On his walk, he actually came by an abandoned and haunted farm called Golden Hills Plantation, and Teloth, sensing an opportunity, clears the place of ghosts and claims the place as his new home, making Teloth officially a homeowner. He furnishes the inside of the house, plants crops, and also gives Feindal a job as steward of his new plantation as thanks for tagging along while Teloth slew the dragon. Maybe having a more prominent job working for a Telvanni warrior will make Camilla Valerius fall more madly in love with Feindal. Or not, Teloth doesn't care. Our Telvanni hero also hires farmhands to plant and harvest crops for him, meaning that Teloth has a passive source of income. He also erects a shrine to the Daedric Prince Boethia inside his home so that it is finally fit for a proper Dunmer as they worship her along with Azura and Mephala. Teloth, the plantation owner, Thane of Whiterun, and Dragonborn. Not bad for someone who was about to be executed 3 fucking days ago. Now, Teloth spent every last septim he earned establishing his new plantation, so before meeting the Greybeards, he introduced himself to his new pawn, housecarl Lydia.
As my Thane, I'm sworn to your service. I'll guard you and all you own with my life.
And together they plundered many bandit camps, with Teloth claiming all the rewards, of course. Afterwards, when Teloth returned home from bandit slaying, his plantation was attacked by another dragon, and Teloth managed to slay it without the assistance of the Whiterun Guard, but did have a lot of help from Feindal and Lydia, who did distract the dragon. And once again, Teloth absorbed the dragon's soul entirely, confirming once again that Teloth is indeed this dragonborn he keeps hearing about. His new farmhands probably worship him like a god now, too. This new dragon attack proved that Teloth can no longer delay, and so he set out for High Hrothgar with Lydia at his side. On the way, he came across an old Nordic ruin called Hilgrin's Tomb, and at its entrance was a Nord named Goldir.
Oh, Kai, you started.
Goldir explains that a Dunmer necromancer named Vals Varen is inside raising his dead ancestors, and he uses some colorful language to describe him.
He's gone in to defile our family tomb by using our ancestors for his filthy dark elf necromancy. No offense. I mean, I'm sure you aren't into any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, about that, I'm assuming you have never met a Telvanni before. He also explains that his Aunt Agna went into the tombs to stop Vals, but Goldir didn't follow after her for understandable reasons.
I'm terrified of that place, and Aunt Agna knows it. My dad locked me in there in a drunken rage when he left us. 3 days in there eating the offerings left for our dead, before Aunt Agna found me.
And so Goldir asks for the help of Teloth, and he accepts, but only so he can uncover some more loot and learn more about this Vals Varen. Inside, he encounters more Draugr, which does not bother Teloth a bit, as he is now able to try out his new shout, which knocks the zombies slightly backwards.
Hey, those belong to my family. Fine, take whatever you want. So long as you help me get rid of Vals.
Sadly, after pressing further into the barrow, Teloth comes across the body of Goldir's Aunt Agna, and Vals has barred the door to the main tomb. Luckily, Goldir mentions a secret room where disgraced members of his family are buried, and would perhaps lead them to the main chamber where Vals is. And after fighting some spiders, mining some iron ore, and slicing up even more Draugr, Teloth and Goldir make it to the main chamber.
I'll return my ancestors to Sovngarde, and you with them.
Sovngarde is a myth, you swit. And now you can join me.
Before Teloth could suggest having an intellectual debate on the existence of Sovngarde, which Teloth doubts exists, Swords are drawn, magic is casted, and it is now time for violence. Now, since Teloth is a 2-time dragon slayer, you'd think killing a necromancer and some bone walkers would be easy. But the reclamations nearly claimed his soul twice during this battle, but luckily he was able to rise up and slay Valsverin and his dead goons, with the help of his restoration magics, of course. After all was said and done, Goldir rewarded Teloth with a hefty amount of gold and still got to loot the remainder of the dungeon for all it had. Teloth asks if Goldir has any plans, and
whatever I can to put my family here back to rest. After that, probably just stick around here. Saw some good game on my way here, and I'd like to stay close for a while.
Perhaps Teloth will meet Goldir again in the future, but for now, he must press on towards High Hrothgar. After coming across a scavenger and killing a bandit that was just enjoying a sick-ass view, Teloth began to wonder about this Sovngarde the Nords believe in. An afterlife where true Nord warriors go to when they die, but what qualifies as a true Nord warrior? And what if you are only half Nord and half Dunmer or Imperial? And what about the other races? Teloth is left with far too many inconsistencies involving this Nord afterlife that he can only conclude that Valsverin was correct. Sovngarde is just a myth, but he will keep that conclusion to himself, as the many Nords in Skyrim might get upset or even violent at a foreigner spewing heresy. When nearing the village of Ivarstead, Teloth comes across a troll under an alcove, and with his powerful magics and dexterous movements, he is easily able to slay the troll. Afterwards, he comes across the bodies of 2 Stormcloak soldiers that were sent to stop what they believed were wolf attacks in the hopes of gaining more recruits for the war. But this obviously wasn't a wolf, and this was no happy hunting trip for the Stormcloaks. But if Teloth is able to slay a troll that 2 Stormcloak soldiers couldn't, it shows that he is likely more powerful than a squadron of soldiers, showing he is quickly rising in power. Finally, he makes it to Ivarstead, a village that resides at the foothills of the tall mountain called the Throat of the World, also known as the Snow Tower, where the Greybeards live at the top of. He speaks to many of the villagers and asks them about High Hrothgar, and they have relatively the same answer.
It's frightening living below their monastery. Sometimes I swear I can hear strange noises rolling down from up there. It sounds like thunder, but there's never any rain. What do you make of that?
It started to get quite late, and Teloth was slightly weary from his travels, so he decided to stay at the local inn and rest. But the innkeeper Wilhelm screamed about something that really piqued his interest.
If I were you, I'd keep away from the barrow on the east side of town. It's haunted. Look, I've seen one of the spirits with my very own eyes. When it glared at me, I swear it burned right through my soul.
A ghost haunting an old Nordic barrow right next to Ivarstead. Not the most shocking thing, as Morrowind has many ghosts in old tombs, but it could prove lucrative to investigate what treasures the ghost may be guarding, and the barrow is right next door, so it would just be rude not to. Though Wilhelm does mention someone did try to explore the barrow before Teloth.
About a year or 2 ago, some fella named Windelius came through. Said he was some kind of a treasure hunter. I warned him not to go in there, just like I warned you. The very next night we heard screams from the barrow, and that was it. We never saw him again.
Yeah, well, he was probably weak. Teloth rents a room to sleep in, and afterwards he presses into the barrow to uncover the ghost, but the ghost doesn't take long to reveal himself.
Leave this place. Leave this place. Leave. Leave. Leave.
There is no quicker way to make Teloth want to explore a barrow more than a ghost demanding he leave. And judging from how the ghostly apparition looks elven instead of Nordic, it is very likely that this is the ghost of Wendelius, the explorer that came here before Teloth. He delves deeper into the barrow and encounters a hostile ghost whom he easily dispatches, but discovers that that was not actually a ghost, but rather Wendelius, who was appearing as a ghost using a potion. He also reads Wendelius's journal and discovers he was trying to find a dragon claw to open the door, similar to the golden claw he retrieved for Lucan. But he went insane trying to find it and ended up becoming a haunted defender of the barrow. Teloth, being inquisitive, tries out the potion and lo and behold, he appears as a ghost for a limited time. But since he killed Wendelius, he has no way of replicating the potion. If only he had a way of not just appearing as a ghost, but becoming ethereal and invulnerable entirely for a limited time. Oh well. He takes this news to Wilhelm, who is shocked and embarrassed, and rewards Teloth with the Sapphire Dragon Claw, the same claw that Wendelius went insane trying to find. I guess the moral here is that you should always ask the populace questions about the ruins you are investigating, and maybe help them out as a favor in exchange for secrets and keys, or just, bribe them and make things easier for yourself. After quickly traveling back to Whiterun to sell stuff and his plantation to store stuff, and also warding off a gargoyle attack, which real talk is an encounter I have never witnessed before starting the Dawnguard DLC before, Teloth goes back to Shroudhearth Barrow with the Sapphire Dragon Claw and opens the door to discover and claim what riches Wendelius went insane over. The Greybeards can wait, because this is very important. He fights through many Draugr, solves some more rudimentary puzzles meant to keep Draugr inside, and also picks a master-locked door, only to then pick an expert-locked chest with admittedly some nice loot inside. But I hope whoever at Bethesda designed that is fired and also got divorced, because that is just fucked up, man. And I say that as someone who can pick master-locked doors in his sleep. Teloth even shoots down an oil lamp onto the ground, which explodes a bunch of skeletons, which was very satisfying for him. Eventually, he makes it to the main chamber where he battles weak-ass skeletons and some Draugr, and finally makes it to the treasure room and plunders it for all it's got. Though it doesn't have nearly enough wealth to be worth going insane over, but Wendelius seemed weak in mind and spirit anyways. He then comes across another wall similar to the one in Bleak Falls Barrow that called to him, and he can't help but approach it and learn what it has to teach him. It is here he learns the word Khan, or Kine, which allows him to tame wild animals. And since Teloth slew that one dragon that tried to burn his farm down, he was easily able to unlock its power. And after that, he stays in the Villamere Inn for another night and gets ready to climb the 7,000 steps to High Hrothgar. But first, Teloth meets a charitable man named Klimek, who is also preparing to make the trip up the mountain as well to deliver food to the Greybeards.
Mostly food supplies like dried fish and salted meats. Things that keep fresh for a long time. I mean, it just wouldn't feel right to charge them for a bit of preserved food. Trouble is, my legs aren't what they used to be, and climbing the 7,000 steps takes its toll.
Now, Teloth is by far the least charitable individual in any room, but since he is going up to High Hrothgar anyways, he might as well take some food with him. Before heading up, Teloth asks if there is anything he needs to watch out for during the climb.
Well, there's the occasional wolf pack or stray, but that's all I've ever had to deal with. Shouldn't be a problem for the likes of you.
Well, I guess Teloth will hold Klimek to that, and this should be a relatively peaceful climb. He checks in on Lydia, and Teloth can't help but gaze affectionately into her eyes, feeling emotions that the Telvanni aren't supposed to feel. But it's probably just his nerves these last few days, right? Teloth gets a little distracted with killing some bears and listening to a Daedra utter some nonsense that he's uninterested in right now.
A new hand touches the beacon.
And when he finally starts to make the climb, he comes across an etched tablet meant for pilgrims to read. Before the birth of men, the dragons ruled all Mundus. Their word was the voice, and they spoke only for true needs, for the voice could blot out the sky and flood the land. This is the first of many emblems that Teloth is interested in reading, as these writings could provide insight into his newfound power. And already he is most curious to see if he could flood lands with but a single word. He would truly be the envy of all within House Telvanni, so much so that one day they would have to let him back in. Also, Teloth barely made it up the steps and nearly got slaughtered by a frostbite spider. Showing that this mountain has gotten drastically more brutal or Klimek is a fucking liar. Teloth comes across a hunter named Barknar who is also reading the emblems on the mountains.
I like to spend time up here. Walk the steps. Meditate on the emblems. Doesn't hurt when I bag some game along the way.
After having a conversation about the Greybeards, Teloth meditates on the second emblem. Men were born and spread over the face of Mundus. The dragons presided over the crawling masses. Men were weak then, and had no voice. So it seems that far in the past, before recorded history, the dragons once ruled over everyone, especially the humans. Teloth also finds it interesting how the emblem says the dragons ruled over Mundus, the plane of existence, instead of Nirn, which is the planet Tamriel and Skyrim resides in. Perhaps the dragons were capable of space travel and could fly to the twin moons and the other planets surrounding Nirn. How fascinating it would be to have the power to do the same. After stealing someone's offering from the third emblem, it reads, "The fledging spirits of men were strong in old times, unafraid to war with dragons and their voices. But the dragons only shouted them down and broke their hearts." When Teloth made it to the fourth emblem, he encountered Karita, who doesn't talk much about herself, but is another pilgrim.
Walking the steps, meditating on the emblems. I make this trip every few years.
And this emblem says, Kine called on Paarthurnax, who pitied man. Together they taught men to use the voice. Then dragon war raged, dragon against tongue. While ascending the mountain, Teloth suddenly encounters a frost troll that jumps down trying to ambush him. However, Teloth has already faced off against a troll and a deadly frostbite spider, so this fight was actually quite simple. Especially with Lydia and his fire Atronach. Teloth wonders if any previous pilgrims have ever died to this frost troll or consider him dangerous. That would be quite sad, if so. The rest of the way to High Hrothgar was actually quite peaceful, allowing Teloth to fully devote himself to reading the emblems. Emblem 5. Man prevailed, shouting Alduin out of the world, proving for all that their voice too was strong, although their sacrifices were manyfold. Emblem 6. With roaring tongues, the Sky Children conquer, founding the first empire with sword and voice, whilst the dragons withdrew from this world. Teloth predicts that the first empire in reference is not the first Cyrodiilic empire founded by Alesia, but rather the first Nord empire, which only lasted less than 2 centuries. Emblem 7. The tongues at Red Mountain went away humbled. Jurgen Windcaller began his 7-year meditation to understand how strong voices could fail. This one made Teloth smile, for it was in reference to the Battle of Red Mountain, where the Chimer, a race of elves who would eventually become the Dunmer, who managed to defeat the Dwemer, the Nords, the Orcs, and even the traitorous House Dagoth. So it's funny to know that Teloth's people made the Nords do a lot of reflecting after such a disastrous defeat. Emblem 8. Jurgen Windcaller chose silence and returned. hand, the 17 disputants could not shout him down. Jurgen the Calm built his home on the throat of the world. The next emblem is different from the rest, as it bears the statue of the imperial god Talos. Emblem 9. For years all silent, the Greybeards spoke one name. Tiber Septim, stripling then, was summoned to Hrothgar. They blessed and named him Dovahkiin. And the final emblem 10 says, the voice is worship. Follow the inner path. Speak only in true need. When he completes his meditation on these words, Teloth unlocks a new power called Voice of the Sky, where animals will neither fight nor flee from our Telvanni hero, at least for 24 hours. A power I bet many of you didn't know even existed. He throws Klimek supplies into the offering chest and enters the monastery, where he is approached by Arngeir. Teloth starts to ask questions, but the Greybeards desire proof that Teloth is indeed Dragonborn.
First, let us see if you truly are Dragonborn. Let us taste of your voice.
No need to tell Teloth twice, he relishes in showing off his extraordinary power.
We are the Greybeards, followers of the Way of the Voice. You stand in High Hrothgar, the slopes of Kinarith's sacred mountain. Here we commune with the voice of the sky and strive to achieve balance between our inner and outer selves.
Now, Teloth is here for two reasons: to learn the powers of the voice and to understand what it means to be Dragonborn so that he may exploit this title for all it's worth. Though he neglects mentioning the exploiting part.
We are here to guide you in that pursuit, just as the Greybeards have sought to guide those of the dragon blood that came before you. You are not the first. There have been many of the dragon blood since Akatosh first bestowed that gift upon mortal kind. Whether you are the only Dragonborn of this age, that is not ours to know. You are the only one that has been revealed thus far. That is all I can say.
The Greybeards then teach Teloth a second word of power, Da, which means push, and can be combined with Fus to create a more powerful shout. The Greybeards summon spectral versions of themselves for Teloth to test his newfound powers on, but he does feel this extra word doesn't really make his shout as powerful. Maybe when he unlocks the third, it will be. Afterwards, Teloth is taken out back, but not to be put down like a sick horse or a guar, but instead to learn an entirely new shout called Whirlwind. A shout that allows him to move forward at great speeds, best used to dodge enemy attacks or avoid traps. And of course, you know Teloth is able to master this shout like the amazing and sexy Telvanni warrior he is, which astounds even Arngeir.
Your quick mastery of a new Thum is astonishing. I'd heard the stories of the abilities of Dragonborn, but to see it for myself. You are now ready for your last trial. Retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller, our founder, from his tomb in the ancient fane of Ostengrav. Remain true to the way of the voice, and you will return.
Now, before Teloth heads out on this quest to prove himself, he still has many questions to ask the Greybeards about his power, and even his destiny.
The appearance of a Dragonborn at this time is not an accident. Your destiny is surely bound up with the return of the dragons. You should focus on honing your voice, and soon your path will be made clear.
But Teloth can feel the Greybeards know more than they are letting on.
There is indeed much that we know that you do not. That does not mean that you are ready to understand it. Do not let your easy mastery of the voice tempt you into the arrogance of power. That has been the downfall of many Dragonborn before you.
Yeah, that might be difficult for Teloth given his affiliations with one of the great houses of Morrowind. Now, Teloth asks the Greybeards many more questions, including about the Way of the Voice philosophy that the Greybeards follow.
The voice was a gift of the goddess Kinarith at the dawn of time. She gave mortals the ability to speak as dragons do. Although this gift has often been misused, the only true use of the voice is for the worship and glory of the gods. True mastery of the voice can only be achieved when your inner spirit is in harmony with your outward actions. In the contemplation of the sky, Kinnereth's domain, and the practice of the voice, we strive to achieve this balance.
Now, this is all well and good, but there is a problem. Teloth is a Dunmer that does not worship the 9 divines and considers them less powerful versions of the Daedra, instead preferring to give reverence to his ancestors and the Reclamations, the Daedric princes Azura, Mephala, and especially Boethia. Most Telvanni care not for worship, whether it's the Reclamations or the Tribunal which came before, and especially not the 9. Though Teloth is slightly different, as he always looked up to the good Daedra as guides and harsh teachers whom he respected and followed. But also, Telvanni philosophy directly contradicts the Way of the Voice philosophy, which makes Teloth question why the Greybeards would even teach him anything in the first place.
The Dragonborn is an exception to all the rules. The dragon blood itself is a gift of the gods. If we accept one gift, how can we deny the other? As Dragonborn, you have received the ability to shout directly from Akatosh. We therefore seek to guide you on the proper use of your gift, which transcends the restrictions which bind other mortals.
Arngeir also curiously mentions that there is one more Greybeard whom we haven't met yet, their leader.
Our leader, Paarthurnax, lives alone on the peak of the throat of the world. When your voice can open the path, you will know you are ready to speak to him.
Paarthurnax, a name he has heard before etched on the emblems leading to High Hrothgar, who was called by Kine to teach man how to use the voice. But Paarthurnax existed before Jurgen Windcaller founded the Way of the Voice, so how's it possible that Paarthurnax came before? And more importantly, how the fuck is he still alive? Teloth theorizes that Paarthurnax could be a sympathetic Mer or elf, or perhaps even a dragon. But it's far more likely that Paarthurnax is a title and name given to every leader of the Greybeards, similar to the Grey Fox. But such theories will have to wait, because if Teloth wants to learn more from the Greybeards, he must embark on yet another quest to retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. He checks in on Lydia, whose elegant voice and fair skin makes him feel all the more warm on such a frigid mountain.
Is there anything else you need?
And then he returns to Klimek to let him know the supplies were indeed delivered.
Quite a climb, wasn't it? Anyway, much appreciated. Here, take this for your troubles.
It was quite something, all right, dick. Teloth returns to his plantation to harvest some crops and also visit his neighbors in Rorikstead and help them with their harvest, as it would be very useful to have allies within that town and perhaps learn about their farming techniques so Teloth can make more money. But while helping, he is ambushed by 2 Dunmerry cultists.
You there! You're the one they call Dragonborn?
Well, Teloth doesn't mean to brag, but the Greybeards think so.
Then it is too late. The lie has already taken root in the hearts of men. So we shall expose to them the falseness in their hearts by tearing out yours, deceiver. When Lord Mirak appears, all shall bear witness. None shall stand to oppose him.
The cultists then attack, but they are no match for Teloth and his power and are easily defeated. He reads a letter one of them had talking about a Mirak and Solstheim, a terrible place he's heard, and that there's a boat from Windhelm if he has any reason to go. But that seems like a problem for another day, so Teloth completely ignores the letter and moves on.
I had a dream that there was a good dragon. He was old and gray, but he wasn't scary.
Before leaving, he meets a man named Eric who wants to be an adventurer like Teloth, but his father won't allow him, and asks for help. And Teloth, in a moment of goodwill, he decides to help him out.
Thank you. I can't stand the thought of being trapped in this village for the rest of my days.
Teloth speaks to Moralki, who does seem very worried for his son, but more importantly, claims that he doesn't even have the money to afford armor for him.
But the world is a dangerous place. Eric has no idea what he's getting himself into. What's more, he's got no armor. I'll have to save up the money for it.
Perhaps Teloth is getting soft, or perhaps he enjoys the admiration of the commoners. But Teloth does something no Telvanni has done before, giving Meralki money to buy Eric armor with no strings attached.
Tell Eric I've changed my mind and will visit Whiterun soon to fit him for armor.
Afterwards, we give Eric the good news. Perhaps this could actually be an investment, and Teloth could use this kid's good spirits in future battles.
I can't thank you enough, friend. I hope you'll come back to Rorikstead soon and pay me a visit. Maybe we can swap stories about our adventures over a mug of ale at the inn.
After killing a Thalmor patrol for being disrespectful to the almighty Teloth, he goes home to organize his inventory and sell various items to merchants. On his way to Ustengrav, he goes through an ancient ruined city called Labyrinthian and slays many a frost troll. He mines iron ore in a town called Stone Hills, and encounters a group of bandits camped next to another standing stone called the Lord's Stone. After slaying said bandits, he touches the stone and receives its gift, increasing his armor rating by 75 points and granting him 25% magic resistance, both of which will be extremely useful in the battles ahead, especially against the increasing number of dragons. Teloth finally makes it to Ustengrav and discovers that necromancers using undead bandits are attempting to breach the tombs, albeit unsuccessfully. He cleaves through many Draugr and loots many burial urns because Teloth doesn't give a fuck about respecting the dead, and makes his way to a large cavern within the tomb that actually looks very beautiful. In a dark and dreary way, of course. He cuts through some of the most dangerous enemies imaginable, skeletons, and uses his newfound whirlwind sprint shout to jump some collapsed bridges and get to some unreachable yet mediocre loot. He also uncovers a new word of power within this cavern, Fime or Fade, a shout that allows him to appear like a ghost, similar to Wendelius's potion, but in this form he is actually invulnerable, which is very useful when jumping from high ledges or is on death's door and needs an escape. He encounters some sort of trial where he must be able to run really fast to get through the gate in time. Teloth guesses the Greybeards teaching him the whirlwind sprint shout was not a coincidence, so Teloth uses the shout to get through the gate at lightning speed. I remember an old friend who would have appreciated that comment. After exterminating some spiders infesting the tomb, Teloth makes it to the chamber where the horn of Jurgen Windcaller resides.
Never seen anything quite like that.
Lydia is right, and even our stoic Telvanni is slightly impressed. However, Teloth discovers that the horn has been stolen and replaced with a mysterious letter written by someone who desires to meet our epic hero in Riverwood. Well, that just pisses Teloth off. He comes all the way here only to be bamboozled by some swit. At least the loot at the end is semi-decent. Teloth returns home to do some chores and returns back to Riverwood, home to his plantation overseer Faendal and first town in Skyrim Teloth visited. Now, the letter said for Teloth to rent the attic room, but there's one problem. There's no fucking attic in this building! But for the sake of acquiring power, he embarrasses himself to the innkeeper and asks for said attic room.
Attic room, eh? Well, we don't have an attic room, but you can have the one on the left. Make yourself at home.
Now, if that wasn't awkward enough, some goddamn Enwa already is at home in his room, which just pisses Teloth off further.
So you're the Dragonborn I've been hearing so much about. I think you're looking for this. We need to talk.
Well, that was slightly unexpected, and all cloak and dagger-like, this Delphine asks Teloth to follow her. And while our Telvanni hero is intrigued, he is a bit uncomfortable following this random middle-aged Breton to her bedroom. But since he has Lydia at his side and the same fucking Enwa sits in the cuck chair in the room, Teloth decides it's okay to close the door. Afterwards, Delphine reveals a secret room inside a closet, though I'm using the word secret loosely since this random-ass Bosmer witnessed the whole thing. And it is here Teloth and Delphine have a little chat.
The Greybeards seem to think you're the Dragonborn. I hope they're right.
Now, Teloth is in a bad mood, so he demands to know why he has been dragged into some not-so-secret basement.
It was the only way I could make sure it wasn't a Thalmor trap. I am not your enemy. I already gave you the horn. I'm actually trying to help you. I just need you to hear me out.
Well now, Teloth smells opportunity on the horizon, and is put in a much better mood and hears Delphine out.
I'm part of a group that's been looking for you. Well, someone like you, for a very long time. We remember what most don't, that the Dragonborn is the ultimate dragon slayer. You're the only one that can kill a dragon permanently by devouring its soul. Can you do it? Can you devour a dragon's soul?
Well, again, Teloth doesn't mean to brag, but he is definitely a Boethia-damned Dragonborn. Delphine also mentions that she is no friend to the Thalmor, and neither is Teloth, since they do not recognize the true power of the Telvanni, and think the Dunmer people are beneath them.
Yes. We're very old enemies. And if my suspicions are correct, they might have something to do with the dragons returning.
Delphine then gives some troubling news involving the dragons, which could confirm one of Teloth's older theories.
Dragons aren't just coming back. They're coming back to life. They weren't gone somewhere for all these years. They were dead, killed off centuries ago by my predecessors. Now something's happening to bring them back to life, and I need you to help me stop it.
And interestingly enough, Teloth helped Delphine discover this as she was able to get her hands on the same Dragonstone that he gave to Farengar.
The Dragonstone was a map of ancient dragon burial sites. I've looked at which ones are now empty. The pattern is pretty clear. It seems to be spreading from the southeast, down in the Gerals near Riften. The one at Kynesgrove is next, if the pattern holds.
Now, Teloth is very interested to confirm this hypothesis of dragons being resurrected, and Delphine wants to see if Teloth truly is Dragonborn. So they both agree to head to Kynesgrove to make these discoveries for themselves. But if Delphine is wrong, Teloth decides to steal everything from this basement as compensation for his time, and even takes a sharp katana which he is fascinated by as it reminds him of the Daedric katanas from Morrowind. Before leaving, he asks the cook Orgnar if he knows of Delphine's activities.
That's her business, not mine. Probably not yours either.
Teloth then makes his way to Kynesgrove and meets some jolly revelers along the way whom he shares a drink with.
Nothing like fine spirits to help raise your spirits.
He comes by a destroyed house owned by a man named Lucky Lorenz, which is quite ironic since a tree fell on his house, which is the opposite of lucky. And when he makes it to the outskirts of Windhelm, he helps out the many farmers by harvesting their wheat, though he steals most of the produce for himself and gives scraps to them.
Now, I've been reading about the best ways to grow corn in permafrost.
I keep telling you, without a warming enchantment, it will never grow past your ankles.
Right, but if you plow the soil with fire salts.
Then you've salted it, and nothing will grow at all. Genius.
And gives barely anything back to Balin Hlalu since he is of the traitorous great house that sold Morrowind out to the Empire long ago. After some farming, he makes it to Kynesgrove, where a woman named Idra claims that there is a dragon flying over an old burial mound. And she is right, but this time it is the same dragon that attacked Helgen, and he is indeed resurrecting this dragon. And what's interesting is afterwards the resurrected dragon calls the black dragon Alduin, and this Alduin speaks to Teloth.
Full side of a king. Zu'u, Korav need no dove to hide. You do not even know our tongue, do you? Such arrogance, to dare take for yourself the name of Dova. Salukanir, Kri Dar Jur.
And so Alduin escapes, leaving his resurrected ally named Saluknir to attempt to kill Teloth. But after a great deal of fighting where Teloth was almost killed in the process, he was able to slay Saluknir and absorb his soul. Just like all the rest. Teloth has now learned a great many things from this encounter, but before he can give it more thought, he must speak to Delphine, who he has now proved himself to.
I'm one of the last members of the Blades. A very long time ago, the Blades were dragon slayers, and we served the Dragonborn, the greatest dragon slayer. For the last 200 years since the last Dragonborn Emperor, the Blades have been searching for a purpose. Now that dragons are coming back, our purpose is clear again. We need to stop them.
Delphine's next move is to figure out who is behind this Alduin's return, and her best lead is the Thalmor, who Teloth has had some, dealings with.
The Empire had captured Ulfric. The war was basically over. Then a dragon attacks, Ulfric escapes, and the war is back on. And now the dragons are attacking everywhere. Indiscriminately. Skyrim is weakened. The Empire is weakened. Who else gains from that but the Thalmor?
Now, trying to get information from the ruling faction of the Somerset Isles on the opposite side of Tamriel might prove difficult and time-consuming. But luckily, Delphine has an interesting plan.
If we could get into the Thalmor embassy, it's the center of their operations in Skyrim. Problem is, that place is locked up tighter than a miser's purse. They could teach me a few things about paranoia. I have a few ideas, but I'll need some time to pull things together. Meet me back in Riverwood. If I'm not back when you get there, wait for me. I shouldn't be long. Keep an eye on the sky. This is only going to get worse.
Now, breaking into the Thalmor embassy could be quite entertaining, and he could learn a lot of hidden secrets from them, and the Telvanni do love secrets. But first he must prepare himself and also stop delaying and return the damn Horn of Jurgen Windcaller to the Greybeards already. But first he stays in Kynes Grove and steals some ore from the local mine, and also helps a jolly Nord named Rogi with his debts. Then he makes his way to High Hrothgar again and gives the horn to Arngeir, and the Greybeards complete Teloth's training by teaching him the final shout of unrelenting force, Da, which means push, granting Teloth a tremendous amount of power. Then the Greybeards surround Teloth and perform a ceremony by speaking to our Telvanni with the full power of the voice. Now, Teloth has yet to learn much of the dragon tongue, though he does plan to learn more of it in the future. So after being yelled at, he asks Arngeir for a translation as to what was said.
We spoke the traditional words of greeting to a dragonborn who has accepted our guidance. The same words were used to greet the young Talos when he came to High Hrothgar, before he became the Emperor Tiber Septim. This is a rough translation. Long has the storm crown languished, with no worthy brow to sit upon. By our breath we bestow it now to you, in the name of Kyne, in the name of Shore, and in the name of Atmora of old. You are Ysmir now, the dragon of the north. Hearken to it.
Well now, there seems to be a lot for Teloth to unpack here. But first, in a moment of divine inspiration perhaps, Teloth returns to Whiterun and crafts a new set of armor for him to wear, discarding the barbaric Nordic steel armor and embracing the ancient yet more advanced Dwemer design, more fitting to who Teloth Telvanni truly is. Before meeting back up with Delphine, he ventures into various dungeons to accomplish small deeds, like finding some gauntlets for an orc stronghold that was near Saloknir's burial mound, or finding Rogi Knotbeard's ancestral shield. And while he's killing and looting, he thinks back to this Alduin. Teloth has been learning a bit about Nord culture, but there is much he doesn't know yet, but the name Alduin is strangely familiar to him, as if he's heard legends of him in books he read when he was a child. Something about a man-eater, or something to that extent, although all he knows so far is that Alduin appears to be some sort of alpha dragon, as Saloknir seem to praise and respect him given his tone. He also knows of the term Izmir, the title he was given by the Greybeards, as it was the same title given to many enemies of the Dunmer people, which is ironic. It was first given to High King Wulfharth, who was the undead Nord king that led the army of foreigners that invaded Morrowind during the Battle of Red Mountain. It was also given to Tiber Septim before dragging Morrowind into his little empire. Now Teloth has this title, and while he cares little for it, he can't help but find it ironic and humorous. Afterwards, Teloth realizes that many orcs are experts with weapons and armor, so he returns to the stronghold of Narzlbur he got accepted into, and purchases select materials so he can make enhancements to his dwarven armor and also give dear Lydia some Dwemer armor as well. Now Teloth feels very iconic, and now ready to meet back up with Delphine and plot on how to hurt the Thalmor and uncover the secrets behind the dragons. He follows Delphine back into her not-so-secret hideout since she left all the fucking doors open for everyone and their ancestors to see, but what she lacks in discretion she makes up for with a quick, solid plan.
The Thalmor ambassador, Elenwen, regularly throws parties where the rich and connected cozy up to the Thalmor. I can get you into one of those parties. Once you're inside the embassy, you can get away and find Elenwen's secret files. I have a contact inside the embassy. He's not up for this kind of high-risk mission, but he can help you. His name is Malborn. Wood Elf. Plenty of reason to hate the Thalmor. You can trust him.
Once again, Teloth is very interested in this plan, as while he was never Telvanni royalty like the great Master Neloth, he always had aspirations to one day become a noble. And while he is spying on the Thalmor, he could also forge relations with other prominent leaders and increase his status. Teloth needs no reassurances from Delphine and is excited to enact this plan. So he and dear Lydia prepare themselves and head for the city of Solitude, where his contact Malborn is waiting. Now, while on the road, Teloth ended up clearing out a necromancer fort for fun and also to test and exert his powers, and he also finds a dog named Miko, whose owner sadly passed away from disease. In that moment, Teloth decided he could use another loyal ally on his side, just like the lovely Lydia, and so he adopts Miko as his own. And the three keep pressing on to Solitude. He travels through the town of Dragonbridge and accidentally walks into a room he's not supposed to. I'm sure these Penitus Oculatus guys won't be relevant to Teloth in the future though. And after leaving Dragonbridge, he is suddenly attacked by an assassin who for some reason makes a beeline for poor little Miko. But luckily Teloth is able to slaughter the assassin before she could harm our little bloodhound, and discovers a letter that mentions someone has performed the Black Sacrament on Teloth and wants him dead, and is signed by someone named Astrid. This isn't the first time someone has hired an assassin on Teloth. House Telvanni is cutthroat like that, and his fame as Dragonborn would invite opposition. But still, he wonders why the assassin focused on Miko, maybe because she was a Khajiit. The catfolk always seemed to detest dogs. Now, before entering Solitude, he decides to real quickly head home to keep Miko safe at the plantation. Partly to keep him safe and allow him to live a life at ease on the farm and avoid future assassins hurting him, and partly because his constant barking would interfere with NPC dialogue.
Hard to say. It's ancient.
When returning back to Solitude, he finally enters the city, and the first thing he witnesses is an execution. involving a gate guard who let Ulfric Stormcloak flee the city after slaying High King Torrig, either in honorable combat or through murder. This confused Teloth, especially since House Telvanni philosophy holds that if you disagree with someone and then kill them, you were clearly in the right, no matter what way you killed them. And this gate guard Rogvir was simply following the way the winds were shifting. Also, the execution was quite boring. House Telvanni executions usually involve a lot more spectacle, especially since those being executed were mad wizards capable of blowing up half of Vardenfell. Afterwards, he makes his way to the Winking Skeever Inn to establish contact with this Malborn.
Really? You're who she picked? I hope she knows what she's doing.
The wizard lords of House Telvanni are always seen as underrated until the wind blows, even by Bosmer twinks it seems. Malborn asks Teloth to give him anything he would need to infiltrate the embassy so he can smuggle it in. And so Teloth literally gives him everything, because fuck it. And then he runs back to Delphine as naked as the day he was born.
I have your invitation to the party. But the only way you're going to get past the guards is if they really believe you're an invited guest. Which means you need to look the part and not be armed to the teeth. Here, put this on.
And before you know it, Teloth is dressed not like a Telvanni noble, but at least a Redoran noble. Which is good enough for him. He could get used to this type of finery at least for a time until he decides to kill and rob for even more finery.
I guess that will have to do. You should pass for a real guest, at least until you open your mouth.
This is by far the most insulting thing Teloth has ever heard in his life, and now views Delphine far less favorably because of it. But he still gets on board the carriage and arrives fashionably late to the embassy, along with a red guard named Razalin.
I prefer to arrive early, often the day before the party, so as not to miss out on any of the drinking.
He presents his invitation to the Thalmor wizard, though whether or not this hoity-toity Altmer can even be considered a true wizard is debatable. He says his temporary farewells to Lydia, who is loyal and kind enough to follow Teloth's carriage even though he wasn't expecting her to.
Welcome. I don't believe we've met. I am Elenwen, the Thalmor ambassador to Skyrim, and you are?
Now, Teloth is aware that he is supposed to infiltrate the embassy as a spy, but he can't help but introduce himself to Elenwen by his full name.
Ah, yes. I remember your name from the guest list. Please, tell me more about yourself. What brings you to this... to Skyrim?
He begins to mingle with all the guests at the party, including the widow of High King Torrig, Elisif, many jarls like Igmund and Eadgrod, prominent businessmen like Maven Blackbriar, Eriker, and Vittoria Vici, and also happens by Preventus Avenici, the steward of Jarl Balgruf the Greater. Teloth finds it interesting how Balgruf sent his steward to attend this party instead of himself. He also speaks more at length with Elenwen, the leader of the Thalmor in Skyrim, and Ondolamar, who heads the Talos Hunters.
The Thalmor Justiciars are so often misunderstood. Our primary goal is to preserve the peace between the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion. The worship of the false god Talos contributed to the unfortunate friction that led to the Great War. Following the Great War, the White Gold Concordat set out the terms for peaceful coexistence between the two powers. The Empire and the Dominion agreed that the worship of Talos was a relic of the past and must be eliminated in the interests of peace. But I'm sure you didn't come here for a lecture on high politics.
There is peace now, and that peace will continue for as long as it suits our needs. But make no mistake, this is not a peace forged out of necessity between rival nations of equal strength. It is more like the calm between storms, and the next storm, I think, will be far deadlier than the last.
Teloth has learned a lot of very interesting information about the Thalmor, and not only does he find them quite intriguing, but he also realizes that they truly are dangerous, not towards Skyrim or the Empire because he doesn't care about any of that shit, but because these Altmeri supremacists might eventually look towards the Dunmer people, who long ago broke away from Altmeri society and faith, and may want to purge Teloth and his people for being traitors and heretics, similar to the Nords and their Talos, ironically enough. Once he becomes bored with mingling with the elite, he speaks to Malborn and he mentions that Teloth must cause a distraction so he can slip away unnoticed. Luckily, one of the businessmen, Erikr, takes a fancy towards one of the serving girls, a Bosmer named Brelis. Teloth gets the idea that Erikr has a very fragile ego and thinks he can use this situation to his advantage. So he decides to tell Erikr that he'll see if Brelis is actually interested in him.
Really? Yes, maybe that would be just the thing. She seemed to be playing hard to get when I spoke to her earlier. Go on, see what she says. Now you've gone and gotten my hopes up again.
However, it is very clear that Brelis is not interested and is just here to get paid, which is understandable.
Please tell him to leave me alone, politely. I'm sure you'll have better luck getting through to him than I would.
And Teloth does exactly as Brelis asks, although maybe not as politely as she would have liked, which makes Erikr throw himself into a frenzy.
That little tease, leading me on and turning cold at the last minute. I don't think so.
Don't you dare walk away from me, you slut! Do you know who I am?
Well, by Molag Bal's scrotum, that went from 0 to 100 fast. After Teloth was a bit too successful at causing a distraction, he slips out with Malborn into the kitchens.
A guest? In the kitchens? You know this is against the rules.
However, a Khajiiti cook gets suspicious towards Malborn and Teloth, and, no witnesses. After Teloth commits murder for the first time in Skyrim, which he shrugs off as nothing since he is a true Telvanni that has done far worse on Port Telvannis, he collects his gear from a chest and breaches the embassy, killing many Thalmor soldiers inside while looting and ransacking the whole place as well. Not just for possible information on the dragons and secrets the Thalmor collected, but also just to fill up his own pockets. He causes quite a stir outside the embassy, killing even more Thalmor, and then breaches Elenwen's personal chambers, where he kills a Thalmor spy named Gisser and a Thalmor agent named Rulendil who is interrogating a certain prisoner downstairs. And after doing even more looting and turning this spy job into a straight-up heist, Teloth uncovers some incredibly confidential Thalmor documents. The first is a report on their dragon investigation, showing they are in the dark on the return of the dragons just like Delphine. But they have a prisoner they are interrogating for leads, likely the same one Gisser and Rulendil were talking about. They also have a complete dossier on Delphine, showing that she truly is dangerous to the Thalmor and very capable. A useful asset for Teloth despite her rudeness.
You should pass for a real guest, at least until you open your mouth.
This is also likely why Delphine is also not breaching the Thalmor embassy with Teloth, as the Thalmor would likely know what she looks like. Additionally, there is a dossier all about Ulfric's Stormcloak as well, which is very juicy. And it shows that the Thalmor have, indirectly, manipulated Ulfric's Stormcloak into despising the Empire and starting his rebellion. And that this whole civil war works in the interest of the Thalmor, although they aim to make sure neither side wins, as either one could potentially harm their overall goals of domination. Very critical information that only Teloth and a handful of Thalmor know about, making Teloth proud to have uncovered some dark secrets for him to hoard. After that, he makes his way to the interrogation room and finds yet another dossier, but this time on an old Nord named Esbern, who was once the lore master of the Blades and planned many damaging operations that really hurt the Thalmor. But more importantly, he is the only individual that has critical information relating to the return of the dragons, due to his knowledge on the Akaviri. a foreign race that were obsessed with slaying dragons and finding a dragonborn, who they eventually found in Riemann Cyrodiil. After reading through the dossier, the Thalmor attempt to ambush Teloth by using a captured Malborn to lure him out. But these Thalmor agents did a piss-poor fucking job at ambushing Teloth, and he was able to kill them easily and save Malborn in the process.
Now the Thalmor will be hunting me for the rest of my life. I hope it was worth it.
I guess. Teloth then meets the prisoner who had knowledge on Esbern and frees him, and also finds Brelis locked in the dungeons after her encounter with Erikr, and feeling partially responsible, Teloth decides to free her as well. Teloth and his army of prisoners find a trapdoor and use it to enter a cave which houses a troll, and after Teloth slays the troll and finds valuable loot on an alchemist, they all escape together. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a dragon attacks, and Teloth fights the dragon and allows the freed prisoners to run away. When they are far enough away, Teloth then kills the dragon and absorbs yet another dragon's soul. Dragon slaying is becoming remarkably easier for him, though he wonders where the fuck this dragon came from. Now, Teloth sold off all the loot he collected from the Thalmor embassy, and when he was finished, he walked away with 3,328 gold. A very profitable heist. Perhaps he should join the Thieves Guild. He then returns to Delphine to tell her about this Esbern he discovered and his connection to the dragons.
Esbern? He's alive? I thought the Thalmor must have got him years ago. That crazy old man. Figures the Thalmor would be on his trail, though, if they were trying to find out what's going on with the dragons. Esbern was one of the Blade's archivists, back before the Thalmor smashed us during the Great War. He knew everything about the ancient dragon lore of the Blades. Obsessed with it, really. Nobody paid much attention back then. I guess he wasn't as crazy as we all thought.
The dossier suggests that Esbern is hiding out in Riften, and Delphine mentions the city has a massive sewer system called the Ratway, which is likely where he is hiding. Teloth returns to his plantation to harvest his massive canis root crop and safely store his secret documents he collected. And then he is off to Riften to find Esbern so he can learn more about the dragons, especially of Alduin, and maybe gain another loyal ally as well. On the way to Riften, Teloth comes across two nobles and a guard making their way to Solitude to attend the wedding of Vittoria Vici, one of the prominent people he met at the Thalmor embassy who runs the East Empire Company in Solitude. However, Plautus Carvain is extremely disrespectful towards Great Teloth.
Don't bother me, peasant. I've had a long journey and paid too much coin on these gifts to be late to Vittoria's wedding.
And so Teloth responds diplomatically by murdering everyone and everything and stealing the wedding gifts they were carrying off their corpses. What? House Telvanni has a very different definition of diplomacy. After slaughtering some bandits at a Fort Greenwall, which is placed right on the road to Riften, making you wonder how anyone gets to and from the damn city, and giving Lydia the Fair the steel plate armor the bandit chief was wearing, he finally makes it to Riften. One of the guards attempts to shake Teloth down by enforcing some absurd tax, but Teloth does not believe in taxation and makes the guard back off.
All right, keep your voice down. You want everyone to hear you? I'll let you in. Just let me unlock the gate.
And our Telvanni battle mage is allowed into this dark and gloomy city, one that will not stop talking about the Thieves Guild. After being stopped by some wannabe tough guy and coming across a very suspicious Khajiit,
Go away, if you know what's good for you.
He makes his way to the Bee and Barb Inn and speaks to Brynjolf, who Delphine suggested he talk to.
Expecting free information, eh? Help me deal with business first, then we'll see how I can help you.
Teloth isn't in the mood to be someone's lapdog right now, and so he asks Kirava, the bartender, instead, who says Esbern is likely very deep in the Ratway past the Thieves Guild hideout,
Where all the lowlifes in Riften get drunk and knife each other.
And so he delves into the Ratway, encountering many unique lowlives whom he kills and loots. He makes it to the Ragged Flagon and bribes Vekel the Man for more information on Esbern.
He's holed up in the Ratway Warrens. Hardly ever leaves the place. Has someone bring him food and such. Crazy old coot from what I've heard. For that to stand out down here, he must really be off his nut.
Perhaps, but even a madman can be valuable. Just look at Uncle Sheogorath. When he presses deeper into the Ratway, he encounters a few Thalmor agents and realizes the Thalmor are on Esbern's trail and must proceed quickly. He finds where Esbern is hiding out, but also meets some of his neighbors, too.
I'm gonna eat well tonight, my son.
But not all of them were homicidal. Some were simply lost or hopeless, like this Legion veteran.
They were golden, even when they were dead. But their blood was red. I knew it would be. I finally understand what it all means. What it was all for. The killing and the dying.
Finally, Teloth finds Esbern's door, and he is the one who knocks.
Go away!
Well now, Teloth realizes that getting Esbern to open up his door will actually be difficult. Or maybe not, because just saying he is the Dragonborn is enough for him to trust him completely and open his door. Paranoid my ass.
This'll just take a moment. This one always sticks. There we go. Only a couple more. There we are. Come in. Make yourself at home.
After Esbern finally gets that fucking door open that has more locks than a locksmith, he explains that the end is nigh and that the Dragon of Dragons has come to consume the world.
Haven't you figured it out yet? What more needs to happen before you all wake up and see what's going on? Alduin has returned just like the prophecy said. The dragon from the dawn of time who devours the souls of the dead. No one can escape his hunger, here or in the afterlife. Alduin will devour all things, and the world will end. Nothing can stop him.
Alduin, the same Alduin he saw raise Saluknir and burned Helgen to the ground. His goal is to fulfill his purpose as World-Eater and consume the world, which would include Teloth as well. And that is something Teloth cannot allow.
We must go, quickly now. Take me to Delphine. We have much to discuss.
After Esbern collects some important belongings and Teloth ransacks his whole place for loot, the two head out and face many Thalmor patrols along the way, and is ambushed by that same suspicious Khajiit who Teloth kills and figures out was a Thalmor agent as well sent by Elenwen. Or at least someone whose name starts with E, but who else could it be? When leaving Riften, a dragon circles around the city but does not attack. Likely the dragons know what is going on and is likely keeping tabs on Teloth. Regardless, Teloth delivers Esbern back to Delphine and the two have a little college reunion.
Delphine. Why, it's good to see you. It's been a long time.
It's good to see you too, Esbern. It's been too long, old friend. Too long.
Then the party heads to Delphine's most popular secret hideout, and Esbern mentions a Sky Haven temple built in the Reach by Riemann Cyrodiil's Akaviri Dragon Guard, which contains something called Alduin's Wall.
Alduin's Wall was where the ancient blades recorded all they knew of Alduin and his return. Part history, part prophecy. Its location has been lost for centuries, but I have found it again. Not lost, you see, just forgotten.
This Alduin's Wall, which is a record of a prophecy involving Alduin and Teloth, is now the next location for our Telvanni hero to visit. He lets Delphine and Esbern head out on their own as Teloth has some light chores to take care of at his plantation. He reads up on the book that Esbern for some reason just left behind on the table. These guys are shit at subterfuge. And learns a good bit of lore involving the Akaviri Dragon Guard. After, he harvests some crops and sees sees a dragon and many bright lights in the distance, and discovers that Alduin has been busy resurrecting another dragon, this time named Nahagliv. Teloth is able to slay this dragon, although Alduin escapes again, and it seems clear that Alduin will just keep resurrecting dragons over and over again until his goals are accomplished. Teloth does wonder if he could use the same shout Alduin is using to resurrect dragons as well. But that would be useless because first you would need to discover how to bend a dragon's will to your own, and that's just impossible. You can't dominate a dragon. That's insanity. After getting some rest and doing some more chores, Teloth makes his way to Skyhaven Temple, but his mind dwells on Alduin during the trip. Our Telvanni hero has done some light research on Alduin and discovered that in the ancient Nordic pantheon, Alduin was worshipped as a god. And not some minor deity either, as Alduin is the Nordic interpretation of Akatosh, the chief divine god that heads the imperial pantheon. Now Teloth wonders if his current nemesis Alduin is truly the god he has read about. Teloth is powerful, but he's not that powerful. How could he kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. Weary from his travels, Teloth stops by at a local inn called Old Herolden.
You'll be looking to rent Tiber Septim's room, I take it?
Idis the innkeeper tells Teloth that Old Herolden was liberated by Tiber Septim himself from the Reachmen before he went on to found the Empire, and the very bed he slept in is available to rent for the night. Now Teloth doesn't give a giant's asshole about Tiber Septim's personal bed, but he's tired so he takes it anyways. Hopefully the bed has been cleaned since then. However, he is awoken by a loud scream, and when Teloth asks Idis what is wrong,
there's a ghost just wandering around my inn like it owned the place. I've heard stories that Old Herolden was haunted, but no one's seen a ghost here since the Great War. He's from the battle, I just know it. He's one of Tiber Septim's soldiers, back from the dead.
In Morrowind, ghosts are actually quite commonplace, so if anyone can question the ghost for its motives, it's Teloth.
Hjalti, is that you? I've been waiting.
What's strange about this ghost is that it is convinced Teloth is someone named Hjalti, and wants the sword this Hjalti promised him. And Teloth is curious, so he decides to recover this lost sword for the ghost, but tries to get the ghost to explain himself first.
You don't remember me, Hjalti? 2 campaigns we served together. You saved my life time and time again.
Well, that tells Teloth fucking nothing, so he decides to ask Idis instead.
Hjalti? I never heard of anyone named Hjalti. Tiber Septim had many names. Maybe that's one of them.
Idis also assists Teloth in tracking down the camp where this Hjalti's sword is located, and it's not that far. So he takes a slight detour from Skyhaven Temple and travels to Serpent's Bluff Redoubt, where many Reachmen are gathered. These Forsworn put up quite a fight, but they are no match for a Telvanni lawman's power and are put to the sword and also spell. He even encounters one of the filthy hag ravens the Reachmen dote over and slays it quickly. Teloth eventually finds the sword and returns it to the ghost of Old Herolden.
It's been an honor to serve you, brother. Remember our lessons from the sword masters of Alcair? Let me show you a few things you may have forgotten before we leave Rolden.
And just like that, the ghost vanishes and Teloth learns a bit more about swordplay. Once again, this gives our Telvanni hero much to think about, especially the name Hjalti, which confuses him. So he quickly travels back home and pores through various tomes in his library until he happens upon a book called The Arcturian Heresy. The book is a long read, but the important part is that it too says that Hjalti was another name for Talos, who was born in Alcair. care, supporting what the ghost said as well. Teloth theorizes since Tiber Septim was also Dragonborn, the ghost got confused and thought Teloth was Tiber because their souls looked sort of the same. Or perhaps the ghost wasn't confused and Teloth is the incarnation of Tiber Septim, similar to the Nerevarine prophecies. A disturbing thought for a Telvanni since many, including Teloth himself, dislike the Empire. But now Teloth must press forward, and after slaying another dragon that this time wouldn't fucking land, he absorbs its soul and meets up with Esbern and Delphine and attacks a Forsworn base in order to gain access to Skyhaven Temple. Many powerful Forsworn reside here, stronger than the ones at Serpent's Bluff Redoubt, but with all his allies, Teloth easily overpowers and slaughters them all. Teloth encounters some puzzles along the way, some simple and some painful.
Wait, we missed.
And then he comes face to face with a face resembling Riemann Cyrodiil's face, as well as some blood seal.
Here's the blood seal, another of the lost Akaviri arts. No doubt triggered by, well, blood. Your blood, Dragonborn. Look here. You see how the ancient blades revered Riemann Cyrodiil?
But before doing some bloodletting, Teloth is curious about Esbern's history lesson on the Akavir.
This whole place appears to be a shrine to Riemann. He ended the Akaviri invasion under mysterious circumstances, you recall? After the so-called Battle of Pale Pass, the Akaviri went into his service. This was the foundation stone of the Second Empire.
Afterwards, Teloth fuels the blood seal with his life essence, and the seal is activated and the door opens. And Teloth is the first to set foot inside the Akaviri temple for the first time in centuries. When entering the dark ruin, Teloth finally gazes upon the iconic and beautiful Alduin's Wall, containing so much history through symbolisms and hidden meanings. Esbern analyzes the wall and is able to translate various aspects of it, like how the humans rebelled against Alduin and his dragon cult, and how they used a specific shout that targeted dragons or Alduin himself to defeat him. And the only people who can teach Teloth about this specific shout are the masters of the voice, the Greybeards, though Delphine is not that fond of them.
If they had their way, you do nothing but sit up on their mountain with them and talk to the sky or whatever it is they do. The Greybeards are so afraid of power that they won't use it. Think about it. Have they tried to stop the Civil War or done anything about Alduin? No. And they're afraid of you, of your power. Trust me, there is no need to be afraid. Think of Tiber Septim. Do you think he'd have founded the Empire if he'd listened to the Greybeards?
Well, the Civil War and Alduin are not their business, nor is it Teloth's business to care about Talos and how he founded an empire that weakened his homeland. But Teloth isn't afraid of his own power. It would go against everything the Telvanni stand for.
Good. The Greybeards can teach you a lot, but don't let them turn you away from your destiny. You're Dragonborn, and you're the only one who can stop Alduin. Don't forget it.
Before leaving, he listens to Esbern actually recite this prophecy the Akaviri brought over involving him and Alduin.
When misrule takes its place at the eight corners of the world, when the brass tower rocks and time is reshaped, when the thrice blessed fail and the red tower trembles, when the dragonborn ruler loses his throne and the white tower falls, when the snow tower lies sundered, kingless, bleeding, the World-Eater wakes, and the wheel turns upon the last dragonborn.
Teloth travels back to High Hrothgar, and the steps he climbs are destroying his knees. When he speaks to Arngir about a shout to defeat Alduin, Arngir becomes frustrated and accuses Teloth of being the puppet of the Blades.
They have always sought to turn the Dragonborn from the path of wisdom. Have you learned nothing from us? Would you simply be a tool in the hands of the Blades to be used for their own purposes?
Now, Teloth puts his foot down here, as he is no puppet to anyone, especially not a bunch of Imperial lovers.
Forgive me, Dragonborn. I have been intemperate with you. But heed my warning. The blades may say they serve the Dragonborn, but they do not. They never have.
Arngeir reveals that the shout Teloth is looking for is called Dragon Rend, but this shout holds no place in the Greybeard's Way of the Voice philosophy, and so they do not know it.
It was created by those who had lived under the unimaginable cruelty of Alduin's dragon cult. Their whole lives were consumed with hatred for dragons, and they poured all their anger and hatred into this shout. When you learn a shout, you take it into your very being. In a sense, you become the shout. In order to learn and use this shout, you will be taking this evil into yourself.
Arngeir explains that in order to find this lost shout, Teloth must speak to their leader, Paarthurnax, as he is the only one who might have the answers to locate it. But he lives on the peak of the throat of the world, and only those whose voice is strong enough can open the way to the top. So the Greybeards bestow a final gift to Teloth, so that he may meet Paarthurnax, a new shout known as Clear Skies, which does exactly what you'd think and is able to aid Teloth in clearing through the powerful and magical snowstorms that exist. Now, Teloth has always wanted to meet Paarthurnax, especially since he wants to know if this is a person who's been alive since the Merethic era or a title passed from leader to leader. After fighting blizzards and ice raids, he climbs to the peak to find it barren, empty, no buildings or camps, no way for a mortal to survive. But then, all is revealed when a dragon flies down and introduces itself.
Dremyolok, greetings, Wunderneek. I am Paarthurnax. Who are you? What brings you to my Strunmach, my mountain?
And so it is revealed that Teloth's theory of Paarthurnax being a dragon is confirmed, something he should have known for certain when he read that emblem.
I am as my father Akatosh made me, as are you, Dovahkiin.
Now, before Teloth can get down to business, Paarthurnax states that there are formalities that must be adhered to when two of the Dove meet. It is here that Teloth learns another shout, the ability to breathe fire as a dragon can, Yol, or fire. And Teloth unleashes his new shout upon Paarthurnax to warm his scales, and so he can know if Teloth truly is Dragonborn. And of course he is. Now Teloth finally asks about Dragon Rend.
You seek your weapon against Alduin, but I do not know the Thum you seek. Croesus, it cannot be known to me. Your kind, Jor, mortals, created it as a weapon against the Dove, the dragons. Our Hadrime, our minds, cannot even comprehend its concepts.
But before Paarthurnax can explain how Teloth can learn Dragon Rend, he asks him a curious question.
First, a question for you. Why do you want to learn this Thum?
Power is the obvious answer, as it is for all of the Telvanni, but also because Teloth does not wish for the world he lives on to end. That would be quite annoying for him.
Bruza, as good a reason as any. There are many who feel as you do, although not all. Some would say that all things must end, so that the next can come to pass. Perhaps this world is simply the egg of the next Kalpa, Lean Vokeen. Would you stop the next world from being born?
Well, Teloth cares little for a non-existent world, and he won't even be alive to see it, so why should Teloth even care about it? The next world will have to take care of itself, Teloth believes.
Maybe you only balance the forces that work to quicken the end of this world. Even we who ride the currents of time cannot see past time's end. Wulsetid los trahodis. Those who try to hasten the end may delay it. Those who work to delay the end may bring it closer. But you have indulged my weakness for speech long enough. Croesus, now I will answer your question. Do you know why I live here, at the peak of the Monavin, what you name Throat of the World?
Given how dragons fly, Teloth guesses it's because it makes them feel more in tune with their aerial nature.
True, but few now remember that this was the very spot where Alduin was defeated by the ancient tongues. Varucht Unslad. Perhaps none but me now remember how he was defeated. The Nords of those days used the Dragonrend shout to cripple Alduin, but this was not enough. Ok Mulag Unslad. It was the Kell, the Elder Scroll. They used it to cast him adrift on the currents of time.
An Elder Scroll, not a thing you often find in Morrowind, and so Teloth does not know much about it. So he's especially curious to know what a dragon believes it to be.
It is an artifact from outside time. It does not exist, but it has always existed. Rahwatlan. They are fragments of creation. The Kele, Elder Scrolls as you name them, they have often been used for prophecy. Yes, your prophecy comes from an Elder Scroll. But this is only a small part of their power. Zofa Suyek.
So it seems that Dragonrend is only a piece in the puzzle that defeated Alduin, and the Elder Scroll struck the final blow, casting Alduin forward in time to now.
Some hoped he would be gone forever, forever lost. Meye. I knew better. Tidbo Amativ. Time flows ever onward. One day, he would surface. Which is why I have lived here. For thousands of mortal years, I have waited. I knew where he would emerge, but not when. Tid Krent. Time was shattered here because of what the ancient Nords did to Alduin. If you brought that Kell, that Elder Scroll back here to the Tid Ahran, the Time Wound, with the Elder Scroll that was used to break time, you may be able to cast yourself back to the other end of the break. You could learn Dragonrend from those who created it.
Now, once again, Teloth has a new objective, to find an Elder Scroll. No small task. But perhaps the lore master Esbern would have more information on such matters, given that it's his fucking job to know things like that. But once Teloth finds it, Paarthurnax explains what to do next.
Return it here to the Tid Ahran. Then, Kele Vomindok. Nothing is certain with such things. But I believe the scroll's bond with the Tid Ahran will allow you a seeing, a vision of the moment of its creation. Then you will feel, know Dragonrend in the power of its first expression. You will see them, Wuthfadon, my friends, Haken, Gormlaith, Feldir. The first mortals that I taught the Thum, the first tongues, the leaders of the rebellion against Alduin. They were mighty in their day, even to attempt to defeat Alduin. Sahrot Hun, the Nords have had many heroes since, but none greater.
Teloth speaks to Paarthurnax for a while longer, finding him to be a fantastic intellectual sparring partner, and he aids Teloth on meditating on the voice to make his Thu'um even more powerful. After that long conversation that I mostly left in this video because it's the highlight of Skyrim, Teloth makes his way to Esbern, who opens up on a very deep and meaningful dream he once had.
I used to dream of it. In the dream I was standing someplace high up, a tower or a mountain. It was always just before dawn. The whole world was in darkness. Then came the flash of light, just on the horizon, within the clouds that mark the border between worlds. It could have been lightning, but there was no thunder. In the dream, the sense of foreboding grew, but I could never wake up. Then it came again, this time more distinct, closer. Definitely not lightning. Now it was orange, brilliant orange. The color of hearth and dawn. And a sound, too, distinct and indistinct. Not thunder, something else. Something I should recognize, but in the dream I cannot place it. I want to leave my high place to seek shelter from what I don't yet know. In the manner of dreams, I cannot escape. I'm forced to wait and watch. Then, finally, realization and horror arrive together. The orange is flame, heat. The sound, the roar, a challenge in their ancient tongue. But now it's too late for escape. The dragon is upon me, fire and darkness descending like a thunderbolt. And not just any dragon, but the dragon, Alduin, the World-Eater, the dragon who devours both the living and the dead. And then I would wake up and hope that it was just a dream, but know that it was not.
Well, that was dark, yet extremely beautiful. Anyways, Esbern quickly says that the best place to learn about the Elder Scrolls would be at the College of Winterhold, where many mages gather, which excites Teloth as that sounds like a paradise for him and his Telvanni ways. Though he's a little annoyed that a lore master wouldn't know anything about something so important like an Elder Scroll. Teloth returns to his farm to do some chores and harvest crops like he always does, and then sets off for Winterhold. On the way to Winterhold, Teloth faces yet another dragon resurrected by Alduin and eventually slays and absorbs its soul. He also defeats a number of powerful necromancers at a fort named after Riemann Cyrodiil's son, Kostov, and also steals a bunch of iron ore from a mine nearby the city of Winterhold. Then he makes it to the ruined city, which looks like nothing more than a run-down town with barely any inhabitants. He exchanges words with Feralda, who guards the bridge to deter those that wish to do the college harm, and wants to know why Teloth wants to enter the College of Winterhold. And so he opens up about his desire to seek out the knowledge on the Elder Scrolls.
It is true there are some here who have spent years studying the accumulated knowledge of the scrolls. But what you seek does not come easily, and can destroy those without a strong will.
I mean, Teloth doesn't mean to brag, but his will is far stronger than most given his Telvanni heritage. After Teloth performs a rudimentary test to prove that he is magically gifted, he is allowed entrance into the college. He takes this opportunity to purchase some tomes from various instructors, and to finally purchase a new mage's hood to wear, as he has been wearing the same novice hood since Helgen, and it was starting to get quite charred from all the dragon attacks. Teloth would like nothing more than to take classes here and rise through the ranks of the college, but that is a story for another day, as he has more pressing matters involving dragon gods, elder scrolls, and the end of the world. Teloth asks the librarian, Urag Groshub, if the college has any elder scrolls in their possession.
And what do you plan to do with it? Do you even know what you're asking about? Or are you just someone's errand boy?
Urag begrudgingly explains that the Elder Scrolls are devices that bestow immense knowledge and prophecy, like Paarthurnax said, but in exchange for the reader's sight, and even sanity if they aren't trained properly in the ways of reading those senile scribbles.
It's a reflection of all possible futures and all possible pasts. Each reader sees different reflections through different lenses, and may come away with a different reading. But at the same time, all of it is true. Even the falsehoods, especially the falsehoods.
Urag also berates Teloth when he asks who wrote the Elder Scrolls because the question simply makes no sense, as the scrolls have always been here and simply are. Luckily for Teloth, Urag has a few books on the Elder Scrolls.
I'll bring everything we have on them, but it's not much, so don't get your hopes up. It's mostly lies, leavened with rumor and conjecture.
The first book, Effects of the Elder Scrolls, categorizes the effects the Elder Scrolls have on the individual and separates them in 4 different groups. The Naifs, Unguarded Intellects, the Mediated Understanding, and the Illuminated Understanding, and their varying degrees of blindness. An interesting reading, but not essential to Teloth. However, the next book isn't much help either, as it's not straightforward at all and quite confusing to Teloth, much like the 36 lessons of Vivek he read as a child. The Ruminations on the Scrolls by Septimus Signus speaks about acorns and egg trees and other such nonsense.
Aye, that's the work of Septimus Signus. He's the world's master of the nature of Elder Scrolls. But, well, he's been gone for a long while. Too long. Somewhere up north, in the ice fields. He said he found some old Dwemer artifact, but well, that was years ago.
So Teloth takes a little sabbatical from the college and treks through the harsh and freezing ice fields and eventually finds the lair of Septimus Signus. Inside is a massive dwarven cubic lockbox which Septimus appears to be pacing in front of.
When the top level was built, no more could be placed. It was and is the maximal apex.
Shit, he's insane. This is gonna be difficult, but Teloth asks about an Elder Scroll anyway.
Elder Scrolls, indeed. The Empire, they absconded with them. Or so they think. The ones they saw. The ones they thought they saw. I know of one. Forgotten. Sequestered. But I cannot go to it, not poor Septimus, for I have arisen beyond its grasp.
Septimus tries to give Teloth the runaround, but then he asks what he wants in return, and then he becomes more forthcoming. Or as forthcoming as a madman can be.
One block lifts the other. Septimus will give what you want, but you must bring him something in return.
Septimus incoherently explains that the Elder Scroll resides in a place called Blackreach, and the only way to reach it is to delve into a Dwemer ruin known as Alftand.
But not all can enter there. Only Septimus knows the hidden key to loose the lock, to jump beneath the deathly rock. 2 things I have for you. 2 shapes. One edged, one round. The round one for tuning. Dwemer music is soft and subtle, and needed to open their cleverest gates. The edged lexicon for inscribing. To us, a hunk of metal. To the Dwemer, a full library of knowings, but empty. Find Mazark and its sky dome. The machinations there will read the scroll and lay the lore upon the cube. Trust Septimus. He knows you can know.
So, in return for the scroll's location, Septimus wants Teloth to insert the lexicon in a device that can transfer the knowledge of the scroll into it. But Teloth asks what his goals are for the Elder Scroll, as he clearly isn't a doom-driven hero like he is.
Ooh, an observant one. How clever to ask of Septimus. This Dwemer lockbox. Look upon it and wonder. Inside is the heart of a god, the heart of you and me. But it was hidden away, not by the dwarves, you see. They were already gone. Someone else, unseen, unknown,
found the heart, and with a flair for the ironical, used dwarven trickery to lock it away. The scroll will give the deep vision needed to open it. For not even the strongest machinations of the Dwemer can hold off the all-sight given by an Elder Scroll.
So it would appear that inside this lockbox is a treasure that Septimus wants, which is quite obvious. But what's less obvious is what is inside. Septimus claims it's a heart, but the heart of what? The heart of Lorcan? The dead, missing god of creation? Because that heart was said to have been destroyed by the Nerevarine 2 centuries ago, so that can't be possible, right? Whatever the case of this madman is, Teloth has a new objective, and new artifacts to use in acquiring an Elder Scroll. Teloth practices his new conjuration spells on the local fauna, kills another dragon, and learns a new word of power called Ice Form, and uses Lydia to test this new shout out. She's fine, right? Afterwards, Teloth comes across a camp outside Alftand, and after reading a journal, discovers he's not the only one delving into the ruin. But before delving into Alftand, Teloth wants to be prepared, and goes home and crafts some powerful enchantments for his armor, mostly giving him increased magicka regen and making his sword arm far stronger. He returns to Alftand and kills yet another dragon, and now Teloth feels these dragons ain't shit, and Alduin is not prepared for what's to come. He then raids a dwarven storage room next to Alftand, and after ransacking that place, it is finally time for him to truly delve into Alftand and uncover Blackreach and the Elder Scroll.
No, there's got to be more school. Shut up! Shut up! Don't lie to me, Jezar. You hid it. You always try to steal it from me.
So it seems one of the survivors of the previous expedition went madder than Septimus, ranting about skooma and the like. And lo and behold, when we see this skooma addict, he is hovering over his dead brother, speaking to him as if he were alive.
What? Who is this brother? Another of the smooth skins looking for food?
Teloth kills this Jadar, in self-defense of course, and learns from various journals that members of the expedition had been disappearing one by one from strange creatures. Luckily, Teloth has no intention of sleeping in this ruin as if it were the Bannered Mare Inn, and presses on at full alert. He encounters various dwarven automata and uncovers an absurd amount of glorious loot. Dwarven ruins are the best for finding expensive enchanted items and many jewels. Teloth never quite understood why Enwaz hated delving into these rich ruins. He eventually discovers some strange bug helmet, but not the cool cephalopod helmets the Telvanni wear. No, this is far more primitive and barbaric. He starts finding the corpses of members from this lost expedition, and also finds a skeleton locked in a cage with a book beside him called The Locked Room, which is quite humorous to Teloth. After finding the corpse of yet another expedition member, Teloth encounters the strange blind vagrants killing said expedition, called the Falmer, or Snow Elves. Once a race that lived all across Skyrim but were massacred by the Nords and driven underground. Teloth knows little about the Falmer, but would one day like to uncover their fate for academic purposes, of course. He presses on, killing many Falmer who, while blind, are very alert and aware of their surroundings, and eventually faces off against a dwarven Kenturian. At least that's what Teloth calls them. Centurion, Kenturian, it's just a matter of dialect. The massive construct is easily distracted, giving Teloth the edge he needs to topple it and gain access to the gate that gets him one step closer to Blackreach. But two members of this expedition, the last remnants, are seen bickering.
Of course you want me to leave, just waiting for me to turn my back, so you can have all the glory for yourself.
Then they attack each other, and Teloth takes advantage of the situation to kill both of them and take their loot, including a very unique shield Teloth wants to hang on his wall at home. What? They couldn't be trusted, and that shield looked really cool. Murder was definitely not optional. Teloth places the sphere he was given by Septimus into some mechanism, and a hidden entrance reveals itself. And it is here Teloth is beholden to the beautiful majesty that is Blackreach, with its flowing and glowing mushrooms swaying in the great deep. At the entrance to Blackreach, he finds a dwarven home, and inside is the skeletal remains of someone named Sindirian. His journal mentions that he was once an Altmeri alchemist that lived in Cyrodiil, but came to Skyrim looking and obsessing over a rare type of plant called Crimson Nirnroot, which seems to only grow in Blackreach. Before arriving at the most dangerous cave in Skyrim and getting himself killed, he was staying with two Dunmer farmers, one of whom apprenticed under Sindirian himself. Teloth, also being an alchemist, gets the idea to acquire large quantities of Crimson Nirnroot from Blackreach and deliver them to Sindirian's apprentice, all in the pursuit of knowledge on the alchemical arts. A very powerful art that is looked down by some wizards of House Telvanni, but not Teloth, which I'm sure you gathered from all the times Teloth has been reaping alchemical ingredients. And so he goes around exploring every nook and cranny Blackreach has to offer, killing Falmer, dwarven automata, mining for soul gems, and harvesting Crimson Nirnroot, as well as plundering tons of loot and many times making the trip back to his plantation to offload much of the loot he gathered. Teloth even finds a giant peacefully living down in Blackreach, and he was initially going to leave it alone, but the call of loot overwhelmed him, and let's just say the pelts and toes the giant once had shall be put to better use. After slaying a wisp mother and gathering all 30 plants of Crimson Nirnroot, Teloth focuses his attention on the massive dwarven fortress in the middle of the glowing cavern, and encounters many humans who were enslaved by the Falmer, but were either mind-controlled or raised as babies because they attacked Teloth on sight, the latter being a disturbing theory. Teloth plunders and slaughters his way to the top of this fortress and sits down on a dwarven throne overlooking all of Blackreach. The throne really makes Teloth feel powerful, as if he was meant to sit on a throne, but not one of this world. Though not even Teloth understands what that means. In the center of this dwarven fortress is a false sun, dangling from the ceiling, one emanating the same warmth that the real sun does. Teloth feels called to shout at it with his Thuum, as if instinct had taken over. And when he does, he realizes that he had called out to a dragon who had been living or hiding deep within Blackreach, named Volthuyol. His shout was clearly a challenge being issued, as the dragon immediately attacks, and Teloth, being the dragon slayer that he is, slays Volthuyol in glorious combat like he has all the rest and steals his soul. Now, after becoming the king of Blackreach and discovering all there is to find and killing all there is to kill, Teloth gets back on track and ascends up Tower Mazak to take hold of the Elder Scroll. And after uncovering the remains of Drokt, who wasn't part of the previous expedition but far, far older, Teloth inserts the lexicon that Septimus gave Teloth, and the machine turns on. Teloth presses many buttons, and after some fidgeting, the machine truly activates and bestows Teloth with the Elder Scroll. And Teloth, doom-driven Telvanni hero that he is, claims the Elder Scroll that by the right of might now belongs to him. Now, previously, Teloth read about how the Elder Scroll has the potential to make educated readers blind, and so he likely shouldn't read it until it is absolutely necessary. But Teloth is bold and relishes in experiments, so he says fuck it and opens up the scroll. Well, that was a bunch of fucking nothing. Teloth makes a detour to bring the Crimson Nirnroots to Sindirian's apprentice, and along the way he comes across some revelers, but a bear in the background distracted Teloth from what they were saying.
Nothing like fine spirits to help raise your spirits. Cheers, my friend. May your adventures find you fame and fortune.
and the revelers, drunk out of their mind, walk right into the bear who attacks them and kills one of them before Teloth could intervene. And the others are too drunk to care, and Teloth doesn't care as a rule. Though as he continues, he comes across an old orc seeking a good death.
My time has come. I am old. Too old to become chief. It would be wrong for me to take wives at this age. So I will die. Malakath has given me a vision of a glorious death. I am to wait here until it finds me. As you can see, it has not yet arrived.
Now, Teloth has some time to kill, so he volunteers to kill this orc, though maybe not as honorably as he expected. Teloth gives the orc the courtesy of lying by the river, and after killing some treasure hunters guarding 17 gold with their lives, Teloth makes it to the Serethi farm and speaks to Avrusa, who was Sindirian's apprentice.
I knew this day would eventually come. At least poor Sindirian died doing what he loved. His field research. I told the old fool he should take it easy, but he was too stubborn. Perhaps someday I'll continue where he left off. It's the least I can do, considering how much he did for me.
Well, luckily, Teloth is a genius and thought ahead.
You've gathered quite a few of them, I see. I'll search through Sindirian's notes and find some more information about the Crimson Nirnroot and its properties. You've done alchemy a great service by helping to complete Sindirian's work. I'd like to give you this tome. It's one of Sindirian's greatest works. I believe you've more than earned it.
Now that Teloth has finished his field research and benefited the field of alchemy like a true Telvanni would, it is time for him to turn his focus back on Alduin, the World-Eater himself, and possible Nordic god. And so Teloth breaks his knees and travels back to the throat of the world.
There is no question. You are doom-driven. Kogan Akatosh. The very bones of the earth are at your disposal. Go then, fulfill your destiny. Take the scroll to the Time Wound. Do not delay. Alduin will be coming. He cannot miss the signs.
Teloth then enters the Time Wound, the very place where the same Elder Scroll was last used. Once again, Teloth opens up the scroll, and this time he is transported back in time to the Dragon War. So far back in time, the Dunmer were still known as the Chimer. It is here that Teloth sees the three heroes that Paarthurnax mentioned.
My friends, Haken, Gormlaith, Feldir.
These three slay dragons as easily as Teloth, but even still, their war against the dragons is a difficult one.
Battle below goes ill. If Alduin does not rise to our challenge, I fear all may be lost.
You worry too much, brother. Victory will be ours.
Why does Alduin hang back? We've staked everything on this plan of yours, old man.
He will come. He cannot ignore our defiance. And why should he fear us, even now?
We blooded him well. 4 of his kin have fallen to my blade alone.
None yet stood against Alduin himself. Balpur, Sori, Birka.
They did not have Dragonrend. Once we bring him down, I promise, I will have his head.
You do not understand. Alduin cannot be slain like a lesser dragon. He is beyond our strength. Which is why I brought the Elder Scroll.
Feldir, we agreed not to use it.
I never agreed. And if you are right, I will not need it.
We will deal with Alduin ourselves. Here and now.
We shall see soon enough. Alduin approaches.
Not only does Alduin reveal himself, but the ancient Nord heroes, enemies of Teloth's people, reveal to him the ultimate power against the dragons.
Let those that watch from Sovngarde envy us this day.
Jor Zafrul, the ability to skewer the winged beasts and bring them down to Teloth's level. Even with Dragonrend, the Nord heroes are not able to slay Alduin, and the woman Gormlaith Golden Hilt was slain by the World-Eater, thrown off the throat of the world like a frisbee. Hakon One-Eye, realizing the fight would be lost, urged Feldir the Old to use the Elder Scroll.
Sister Hawk, grant us your sacred breath to make this contract heard. Begone, World-Eater. By words with older bones than your own, we break your perch on this age and send you out. You are banished. Help you out from all our endings unto the last.
It worked. We did it.
Yes, the World-Eater is gone. May the spirits have mercy on our souls.
Teloth is then returned to his timeline and is confronted by Alduin, who is determined to stop our Telvanni hero.
My belly is full of the souls of your fellow mortals, Dovahkiin. Die now and await your fate in Sovngarde. Lost Fund, you are too late, Alduin. Dovahkiin, use Dragonrend if you know it.
Teloth, doom-driven and power-hungry, unleashes his full Telvanni fury against Alduin using the Dragonrend shout, and is able to force him to ground and at the mercy of Teloth himself. The fight is a difficult one, more difficult than any other dragon, which makes sense given Alduin lords over the rest. But Teloth came prepared with his sturdy armor, sharp blade, new spells, enchanted gear, and agile dodges. And the World-Eater proves himself no match in combat. But Alduin, being a god, is beyond this world, and admittedly beyond Teloth, and cannot be slain on this plane of existence.
Prevail against me. I will outlast you, mortal.
And so Alduin retreats from the fight to lick his wounds and his pride, and now Teloth must figure out where he has gone. And who better to ask than his ally and teacher, Paarthurnax?
Lot Kongrach, you truly have the voice of a Dova. Alduin's allies will think twice after this victory.
Though it wasn't truly a victory, more like an interlude to the next battle with higher stakes.
Ni livrach hin moro. True, this is not the final Kongrach victory, but not even the heroes of old were able to defeat Alduin in open battle. Alduin always was Pachlok, arrogant in his power. Uznagar Par. He took domination as his birthright.
Not just Alduin takes domination as his birthright, but Teloth does as well. But that matters not right now. He must know where Alduin has fled to.
One of his allies could tell us Matmahus, but it will not be so easy to convince one of them to betray him. Perhaps the Hafkasayun, the palace in Whiterun, Dragon's Reach. It was originally built to house a captive Dova. A fine place to trap one of Alduin's allies,
Teloth, being in Skyrim for a while, has heard stories of this. And the fucking dragon skull above the throne proves this.
This was ages ago, you understand. There were more of us then. Before the Bruniki, the Akaviri came and killed all my Zema. I used to visit him from time to time, nearly crazed by loneliness and captivity. Tiraz Sivaz. He did not even remember his own name. I do not know how he came to be caught, but the Bronyun, the Jarl, was very proud of his pet, Pak.
Capturing a dragon and showing him off as a trophy or pet is actually quite admirable in Teloth's eyes, and he will be able to put Dragon's Reach to the test by visiting his old friend Jarl Balgruf the Greater, whom he visits at 1 in the morning while he's asleep, but he has no time and demands he needs to trap a dragon in his palace.
I must have misheard you. I thought you asked me to help you trap a dragon in my palace.
Balgruf refuses, which is the sanest and most normal reaction a man can have, but Teloth tells him that the dragon threat is worse than he thinks. That Alduin has come to devour the whole of the world.
Alduin, the World-Eater himself. But how can we fight him? Doesn't his return mean it's the end times?
Perhaps, but in Teloth's conquest for power and destiny, he plans to die fighting.
No Nord could have said it better. I'll stand beside you, Dragonborn.
Teloth isn't slowly becoming a Nord, right? No, that's impossible. He's a Telvanni through and through, right?
I want to help you, Dragonborn. And I will. But I need your help first.
Balgruf explains that because Whiterun is neutral in the Civil War, both the Imperials and Stormcloaks are just waiting for him to make one wrong move so they can sack the city. Meaning Balgruf can't aid Teloth with trapping a dragon until both sides lay down their weapons for but a moment. Teloth was about to suggest slaughtering both sides, but Balgruf has a better idea.
What of the Greybeards? They are respected by all Nords. High Hrothgar is neutral territory. If the Greybeards were willing to host a peace council, then maybe Ulfric and Tullius would have to listen.
Now Teloth, Telvanni and Dragonborn, Slayer of Dragons, must broker a peace in a war he cares very little about. All to prevent the end of the world. He speaks to Arngeir about brokering this peace treaty between both sides, but he is not too enthusiastic about it, which is very understandable.
You misunderstand our authority. The Greybeards have never involved themselves in political affairs.
But unless the Greybeards begin to, the end of the world, and more importantly Teloth, is all but certain.
Paarthurnax has made the decision to help you. This is the road we have to walk. Even the Greybeards must bend to the winds of change, it seems. So be it. Tell Ulfric and General Tullius that the Greybeards wish to speak to them. We will see if they still remember us.
After the Greybeards agree to help, Teloth then asks Arngeir if he knows where Alduin has gone.
The old tales say that he can travel into Sovngarde to devour the souls of the dead. You must find out how he does this before he regains his strength and returns.
Sovngarde, the Nord afterlife, a myth, or at least that's what Teloth believes. But whether it's fact or not is irrelevant. What is relevant is Teloth making his way to Windhelm and speaking to Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak, leader of the Stormcloak Rebellion and local Talos Cuck, about agreeing to the peace talks, which should be easier since Alduin is a Nord legend and Ulfric is nothing if not a Nord who remembers such tales.
I have the greatest respect for the Greybeards, of course, and the dragon attacks are a growing plague. But the political situation is still delicate. Not all the Jarls are fully committed to supporting me as High King. I can't afford to appear weak. I can't agree to this unless Tullius himself will be there.
Something Alduin.
Alduin? The World-Eater of song and legend? If that's true, well, it changes the situation, doesn't it? I'll give Tullius one more chance to quit Skyrim with his tail between his legs.
Well, that was easy. Next, he journeys back to Solitude to speak to General Tullius, which should be easier now, considering the Stormcloaks have already agreed.
The Greybeards? What do those old hermits want with me?
Something negotiate from a place of strength.
Fair enough. We're driving the Stormcloaks back well enough at the moment, but we're already overstretched. That's what comes of trying to win a war with a bare handful of legions. If the Emperor would just give me the reinforcements I've requested.
Oh? Teloth knows the Thalmor a great deal now and is quite curious to hear General Tullius's gossip.
Most of the Legion is tied down on the border with the Aldmeri Dominion. The Emperor can't afford to risk weakening Cyrodiil's defenses. From the Imperial City, our war here is just a sideshow. An interlude before the main event against the Thalmor resumes.
Quite curious, but luckily Teloth has convinced Tullius to attend.
Talking peace with Ulfric? You must be an optimist.
And after doing some chores back on the plantation, Teloth ascends up to High Hrothgar once more. Our Telvanni hero probably has the stamina of a horse after climbing up and down this mountain so much.
So, you've done it. The men of violence are gathered here, in these halls whose very stones are dedicated to peace. I should not have agreed to host this council. The Greybeards have no business involving ourselves in such matters. But regrets are pointless. Here we are. Take your seat at the council table, and let us see what wisdom we can find among these warriors of Skyrim.
But before taking a seat, Esbern and Delphine must have gotten word of this peace treaty and have come to oversee it. Delphine is quite brash, demanding entrance and yelling at the Greybeards over past grudges. But luckily, Esbern is calm, collected, and reasonable.
The matter at hand is urgent. Alduin must be stopped. You wouldn't have called this council if you didn't agree. We know a great deal about the situation and the threat that Alduin poses to us all. You need us here if you want this council to succeed.
Very well. You may enter.
But before beginning his negotiations, Teloth decides to mingle with all the most powerful people in Skyrim. I mean, Teloth must make sure these elite remember him, if he is to acquire more power, political or otherwise.
And so we meet again. But this time I know who and what you really are. I'll give you credit for boldness. But associating yourself with the Blades is a choice you will come to regret.
Okay, maybe not mingle with, you.
I understand this council was your idea, Dragonborn. I'm afraid I don't hold out much hope for success.
I'm glad I finally got a chance to see this place.
I don't know how you convinced Ulfric to talk to the Empire. Worse than a waste of time, if you ask me.
I never thought I'd ever willingly stand in the same room with Tullius again. At least not without a weapon in my hand.
Okay, clearly there's not a lot of people here Teloth can use to his advantage right now. And after much delay, Teloth begins the peace talks.
I hope that we have all come here in the spirit
You insult us by bringing her to this negotiation? You're Chief Talos Hunter?
Well, gods damn it, Teloth barely sat down before hitting a major roadblock. Ulfric threatens to leave the negotiations unless Elenwen, third emissary to the Thalmor, leaves, and the Empire is in too precarious a position to force her out.
Izmir's beard. The nerve of those Imperial bastards, eh?
Don't talk to Teloth like your best friends, Enwa. But still, Teloth cares little for the Thalmor and Imperial politics, and so he forces Elenwen out.
Very well, Ulfric. Enjoy your petty victory. The Thalmor will treat with whatever government rules Skyrim. We would not think of interfering in your civil war.
Ha! Skyrim will never bow to the Thalmor.
Now, after Ulfric's Stormcloak rants about literally fucking nothing, the peace negotiations finally begin, and Ulfric annoyingly leaps in with an absurdly high price for the peace.
We want control of Markarth. That's our price for agreeing to a truce.
Teloth is now really starting to hate Ulfric, especially since he thought Tullius would be the one to demand recompense for letting rebels go unbeheaded for a time. Ulfric would make a good member of House Telvanni though, with his ambition and using the end of the world to his strategic advantage. And while admirable, it's giving Teloth a massive headache right now. But surprisingly, Tullius considers this request but refuses to hand over Markarth for nothing.
Since we're all here at your request, I'd like to hear what you think Markarth is worth.
And in an attempt to make the negotiations as fair as possible, Teloth suggests the city of Riften, since it is of a similar size and on the opposite side of Skyrim, giving both armies similar strategic positions and advantages.
The rift would help secure our communications with Cyrodiil, and threatened Ulfric's southern flank.
The Dragonborn has spoken, Tullius. Markarth will be ours.
You disappoint me, Dragonborn. I accepted your invitation on trust in your good name. But it seems you intend to favor Ulfric.
What in Dagon's dick makes you think Teloth is favoring Ulfric? Who knew being a peace negotiator was more difficult than slaying fucking dragons? Now, while Ulfric and Tullius bicker, Esbern becomes the father that stepped up and reminds them of the world-ending threat of Alduin.
Don't you understand the danger? Don't you understand what the return of the dragons means? Alduin has returned, the World-Eater. Even now he devours the souls of your fallen comrades. He grows more powerful with every soldier slain in your pointless war. Can you not put aside your hatred for even one moment in the face of this mortal danger?
I don't know about the end of the world, but this dragon situation has gotten out of hand. If this truce will help the Dragonborn here put an end to that menace, we both gain. Remember that, Ulfric.
Now that the peace talks have gotten back on track, Tullius has one more demand.
We want compensation for the massacre at Karthwasten.
You slaughtered the very people you claim to be fighting for. True sons of Skyrim would never do such things.
Damned Imperial lies. My men would never stoop to such methods, even in retaliation for your butchery at...
Now, since Tullius has been quite upset at the way these negotiations have gone, Teloth, ever so wise and fair, agrees that the Stormcloak should pay compensation for the massacre at wherever the hell. Teloth kinda spaced out during that part.
Well said. For once you'll actually pay for your crimes. I suppose that's the fairest deal we're likely to get.
And finally, after negotiating through enough bluster and mundane politics that could never compare to the illustrious politics of Morrowind, both sides agree to the truce and Whiterun will be left alone for the time being.
Markarth will be handed over to Ulfric's forces, Jarl Igmund will step down, and Thongvor Silverblood will become the Jarl of Markarth. The Stormcloaks will withdraw from the rift, allowing Imperial troops unhindered access. Jarl Layla Lawgiver will step down, and Maven Blackbriar will become the Jarl of Riften. The Stormcloaks will pay appropriate compensation for the massacre at Karthwasten. You both agree to this?
The Sons of Skyrim will live up to their agreements, as long as the Imperials hold to theirs.
The Empire can live with these terms, yes, for a temporary truce, until the dragon menace is dealt with.
Now it is time for Teloth to finally trap a dragon.
But the difficulty remains how to lure a dragon to Dragon's Reach at all.
Well, that's an excellent question. You haven't overlooked that little detail, have you?
Nah, shit. Luckily, before Teloth could embarrass himself, Esbern comes in and steps up once again, and states that every dragon name is similar to shouts, coming in 3 words of power. For example, Alduin or Paarthurnax, and Esbern has discovered the name of a dragon that was once killed by the Blades long ago and resurrected by Alduin.
Your voice in particular is likely to intrigue this dragon. After your victory over Alduin, I think it's very likely that he will be unable to resist investigating your call.
And the name of this dragon is...
Odahviin, Winged Snow Hunter, as I read it.
But before Teloth could even get out of his chair, Delphine confronts Teloth, saying she knows Paarthurnax is a dragon.
That's fine. We needed his help. Now we don't. And it's long past time for him to pay for his crimes. And he's not just any dragon. He was the right hand of Alduin. He committed atrocities so infamous they are still remembered thousands of years later. He needs to die. He deserves to die. And it falls to you to kill him. Until he's dead. Well, I'm sorry, but we would dishonor our oaths as blades if we continued to help you.
Two things. One, Delphine, the Greybeards are fucking standing right next to you. And two, it is in this moment that Teloth realizes the Greybeards were right, and that the Blades do not serve the Dragonborn, only themselves and a Dragonborn that is aligned with their interests. And a Telvanni is not aligned with their interests.
The Blades may say they serve the Dragonborn, but they do not. They never have.
But Delphine is the brash and harsh one of the Blades, so he decides to speak to Esbern, whom he always thought was the calm and reasonable one, and sees what he has to say.
Justice can be harsh, but it is still justice. Paarthurnax deserves to die. Paarthurnax was the author of many atrocities during the Dragon World, crimes great enough to be remembered for thousands of years. True, he turned traitor to Alduin and helped overthrow the dragon cult, but that does not excuse or expiate his previous deeds. Whether or not he has truly repented or merely acted to save himself, justice demands that he pay with his life.
Teloth is finding it quite humorous that Esbern is speaking of justice, especially since as a Telvanni, he cares very little for such things. And for the sake of the argument, Talos, the great Dragonborn himself that the Blades dote over, has committed many atrocities and war crimes in his pursuit to conquer Tamriel and dominate it, slaughtering many Khajiit and High Elves, and worse, imposing taxes on Morrowind and outlawing Dwemer artifacts. But now he decides to hear what Arngeir has to say. After all, he clocked the Blades from the beginning.
Now you see why I've warned you against them. Bloodthirsty barbarians. During the days of Alduin's rule, all dragons were his allies. There was nothing else they could be. If not for Paarthurnax, Alduin could not have been overthrown. It was he that first taught men to use the Thu'um.
Teloth still needs to think about what to do. After all, he is either losing a teacher or valuable soldiers.
Ah, you're learning, Dragonborn. Doing nothing can be the wisest choice, although strangely often the most difficult. I trust that you will make the right choice in the end. Listen to the voice that Kynareth has placed within you, and your path will be clear.
Teloth doesn't know about Kynareth, but there is one last individual he should listen to. Paarthurnax himself.
The Blades are wise not to trust me. Only Khan Niov. I would not trust another Dova. Dov Walan Farel. We were made to dominate. The will to power is in our blood. You feel it in yourself, do you not? I can be trusted. I know this, but they do not. Only Khan Niov Dova. It is always wise to mistrust a Dova. I have overcome my nature only through meditation and long study of the way of the voice. No day goes by where I am not tempted to return to my inborn nature. Zingriforvut se suliech. What is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
Paarthurnax makes a great many points, and the nature of dragons is similar to the nature of those in House Telvanni. Finally, Teloth turns to Lydia for some last-minute advice on what to do.
I will protect you with my life.
Well said, fair Lydia. Teloth decides to meditate with Paarthurnax, and during this meditation he decides to heed the words of Arngeir and do nothing. He won't slay Paarthurnax, even if it means losing some valuable resources. Delphine mentions that Paarthurnax has outlived his usefulness. But who's to say the blades haven't outlived theirs? He will miss Esbern, though. Delphine, not so much. But after having his fill of peace and harmony and other such nonsense, it is time for Teloth to capture this Odahviing and find out where Alduin has truly gone.
My men know what to do. Make sure you do your part. I'm putting my city in your hands.
And so Teloth makes his way to the massive main courtyard and prepares himself to call out to and challenge this Odahviing and absolutely dominate him in the marketplace of ideas.
Odahviing!
And spoiler alert, the dragon arrives to meet the call of Teloth, and to fuck this Whiterun guard in particular. Hopefully, he was at least receiving hazard pay for this. Using his new Dragon Rend shout, Teloth brings the Crimson Dragon to heel. He backs up, letting the dragon think he has Teloth cornered, but then before he can realize it, the trap has been sprung. And now, just like old Olaf One-Eye and Numenex, Teloth has captured himself a dragon, cementing himself as a modern legend in Skyrim.
My eagerness to meet you in battle was my undoing, Dovahkiin. I salute your, low cunning in devising such a Gra-Min-Dol stratagem.
After bragging to Irileth and Balgruf about capturing the dragon, he then demands Odahviing reveal where Alduin is hiding.
Renik Vaza, an apt phrase. Alduin Boval. One reason I came to your call was to test your Thuum for myself. Many of us have begun to question Alduin's lordship, whether his Thuum was truly the strongest. Among ourselves, of course. Muni Mae, none were yet ready to openly defy him.
So it appears that Teloth's victory over Alduin was far more devastating than he imagined, and that now the dragons themselves, the brothers or sons of Alduin depending on the stories, are deciding whether to fracture or break away from Alduin's tyranny and go their own way. But while interesting, this was not the question Teloth asked.
He has traveled to Sovngarde to regain his strength, devouring the Silesur, the souls of the mortal dead. A privilege he jealously guards. His door to Sovngarde is at Skuldafn, one of his ancient fanes high in the eastern mountains. Zuulost Ofan Hinlan. Now that I have answered your question, you will allow me to go free?
Well, not so fast. Teloth is in no rush to release his new prize, at least not without gaining something in return, like having a dragon servant, which would only increase Teloth's power.
Serve you? No. Need id. If and when you defeat Alduin, I will reconsider. There is one detail about Skuldafn I neglected to mention. You have the Thuum of a Dova, but without the wings of one, you will never set foot in Skuldafn. Of course, I could fly you there, but not while imprisoned like this.
And so Teloth has hit yet another roadblock. He does not wish to release his new pet, but unless he frees him, Teloth will never be able to make it to Skuldafn, at least in time to stop Alduin. And there is also nothing stopping Alduin from just flying away and alerting Alduin to Teloth's plans, or crashing him into a fucking mountain. While Teloth considers this, the court wizard Farengar attempts to gather some dragon blood and scales, which goes as well as you'd expect. Rule number 98 of Telvanni experiments, Farengar. never do experiments on a living specimen, especially in the anal region. Teloth realizes that if he wants to save the world, and himself more importantly, he is going to have to give up his legendary catch, but who knows, maybe in the future Teloth can capture or control another dragon.
Onikan Korav Gain Mirad. It is wise to recognize when you only have one choice, and you can trust me. Zuni Tarudis. Alduin has proven himself unworthy to rule. I go my own way now.
We will see if Odahviing is a Dova of his word. Teloth demands that the Crimson Dragon be released, much to the dismay of the guards, and, well...
All the guards.
Was nu? Ini dein Rufe Astval.
And Odahviing, true to his word, does not fly away. And now all that is left is to ride on the top of a dragon, a feat Teloth believes very few individuals have ever done, and is probably the first Dunmer to do so.
Zukbritoth. I warn you, once you've flown the skies of Kaizal, your envy of the Dove will only increase. Amativ, mu bokotin stinselok.
The bravest person I've ever met. The biggest fool.
May Kinneret guard you while you pass through the realm.
Odahviing brings Teloth to the ancient ruins of Skuldafn and immediately departs. Though he will serve our Telvanni hero one day. Here in Skuldafn, once the high temple dedicated to Alduin himself, Teloth will hopefully find this portal to Sovngarde, but he still doubts its entire existence, even after coming all this way. Odahviing did warn Teloth that all of Alduin's strength was marshaled here, and he wasn't lying, as Teloth faces off against many Draugr and even 2 dragons. Though, as a legendary dragon slayer, these dragons were no match for him. The second dragon tries his best not to land in front of Teloth when hit with a dragon rend, only landing at the top of the ruins, but Teloth will deal with him soon. Now, many of these Draugr are ludicrously strong, even stronger than some dragons, but Teloth is smart and tactical, and even uses unrelenting force and gravity to his advantage. Teloth presses onward deeper into the temple, slaying many Draugr, looting many chests, and solving many rudimentary puzzles. Eventually, he makes his way into the Hall of Stories, a hallway quite similar to the one he walked through back in Bleak Falls Barrow all that time ago. But in this one is a Draugr Scourge Lord who stands guard, and after being put back into the ground, Teloth discovers that he has a diamond dragon claw. Quite the upgrade from the golden one or even the sapphire one. But just like those claws, he uses it to open the massive door and proceed further into the temple. And immediately, Teloth is graced with another word wall for a shout called Storm Call, and he hears the word Strun resonate within. The dragon word for storm, obviously. Teloth comes across a burnt corpse, but it doesn't look like a Draugr. No, it looks like some would-be hero that failed to get further than this. But Teloth will succeed where these charred remains failed. Our doom-driven hero emerges outside of Skuldafn and is met with the dragon that tried to escape his wrath. And while it did get some licks in on Teloth, this dragon fell like all the rest, and Alduin is soon to follow. As he absorbs the dragon's soul, he sees another dragon watching him, acting as an impartial spectator, likely wanting to see who will ultimately win, just like Odahviing. This makes Teloth all the more determined, and so he climbs up the stairs to what appears to be a massive portal, supposedly to this Sovngarde everyone keeps mentioning. But the portal is then closed and guarded by an ancient dragon priest named Nakreen, which translates translates to vengeance in the dragon tongue. Luckily, this dragon priest was injured by unknown means, maybe by the 2 dragons that are spectating this fight. The fight was still a close one, but as always, the Telvanni always wins. He takes the dragon priest's staff, which he believes is the key to opening and closing the portal, and also the dragon priest mask named after him. While the mask is very strong and its enchantments complement Teloth's skill set, it doesn't exactly match his Dwemer gear, so he puts it aside for now, wearing his trusty adept hood instead. He gives the spectating dragons a look, respecting their choice to observe, as it's what a Telvanni would do when witnessing a power struggle. He then opens the portal back up with the dragon priest's staff and jumps into it to face his final dance with Alduin the World-Eater himself, in the hopes of preventing the end of all things, including House Telvanni itself. And by the stars of Azura, by the scythe of Boethia, and by the webs of Mephala, Teloth truly is in Sovngarde, the land of Nord dead, the afterlife of his people's ancient enemy, a land he once thought was merely a myth. He can't help but think back to when Val's Varen said Sovngarde was a myth, and Teloth agreed. How ignorant he was back then, not knowing what was truly possible. But this realm looks to be drowning in darkness, and Teloth can see Alduin through the thick mist. But he sees a massive building on the opposite side of the fog, and decides to make his way there, to regroup and decide his next move. Maybe enlist the aid of some Nord dead along the way. After all, it's not like they can die twice, right?
Turn back, traveler. Terror waits within this mist. Many have braved the shadowed veil, but vain is all courage against the peril that guards the way. Alduin, his hunger insatiable, hunts the lost souls snared within this shadowed valley. Can you lead the way to where Shore's Hall waits, beckoning us on to welcome long sought?
Teloth is not familiar with this Shore's Hall, or anything in Sovngarde really. It's his first time.
Don't you know? What drew you here? Surely your dreams showed you the way. The Hall of Valor, where heroes wait to follow Shore to the final battle. I saw it fair when first I trod this long-sought path. The pain and fear vanished, dreamlike, and a vision beckoned. Shore's Hall, shimmering across the clouded veil, but quenched was hope by the shrouding mist. My mind is darkened. I've lost the way, and wander blindly. Hurry, before Alduin your life devours. Bring word to Shore's Hall of our hard fate.
Teloth recruits this dead Stormcloak who must have been a really good poet and helps guide him to this Hall of Shore. But unfortunately, he is ensnared and taken by Alduin, which was a really damn close call for Teloth, who was right next to him. But it seems he must venture alone, and he does, but at one point he comes across a once notable figure in Skyrim, High King Torrig himself, trapped in this mist as well.
When Ulfric's Stormcloak with savage shouts sent me here, my sole regret was fair Elisif, left forlorn and weeping. I faced him fearlessly, my fate inescapable, yet my honor is unstained. Can Ulfric say the same?
Well, Teloth doesn't know. He is very much out of his depth right now, especially in this foreign, alien realm. After fighting through the dreary mist, Teloth makes it through and encounters someone guarding the bridge to Shore's Hall.
I am soon, shield thing to Shore, the whalebone bridge he bade me guard, and winnow all those souls whose heroic end sent them here to Shore's lofty hall, where welcome well-earned awaits those I judge fit to join that fellowship of honor.
Soon, the Nord god of trials and adversity Teloth read once, Teloth is speaking face to face with a dead god, and he tells this god he is here to defeat Alduin the World-Eater.
A fateful errand. No few have chafed to face the worm, since first he set his soul snare here at Sovngarde. Asgard's threshold. But Shor restrained our wrathful onslaught. Perhaps deep counseled your doom he foresaw.
Well, Teloth suspects it's too late to back out now and head home to his plantation, so he might as well get access to this hall.
By what right do you request entry?
By what right? By the right of power, by the right of might, by the right of his will and everlasting curiosity. Teloth may be casted out of his great house, but he is, and always will be, a Telvanni through and through. He is also a Dragonborn, if that's important or whatever.
Ah. It's been too long since last I faced a doom-driven hero of the Dragonblood.
But before Teloth can gain entrance to Shor's Hall of Valor, soon must judge him by the Warrior's Test. And so Teloth faces a dead god in combat, and he is very powerful, which makes a lot of sense. But Teloth is so mighty and powerful, and has so many health potions, that he pleases soon and is allowed entrance.
It is long since one of the living has entered here. May Shor's favor follow you, and your heir.
So the living have graced Sovngarde before their allotted hour before. Teloth wonders who they were. But that matters not. Teloth is here for a purpose, and speculations and theories must wait. To Shor's Hall his doom-driven eyes gaze upon.
Welcome, Dragonborn. Our door has stood empty since Alduin first set his soul snare here. By Shor's command we sheathed our blades, and ventured not the Vale's dark mist. But three await your word to loose their fury upon the perilous foe. Gormlaith, the fearless, glad-hearted in battle. Hekon, the valiant, heavy-handed warrior. Feldir, the old, far-seeing and grim.
By Hermaeus Mora, Teloth just spoke to fucking Ysgramor.
My disciples still follow the difficult path. The way of the voice is neither wide nor easy. But if you stray from wisdom, then to Sovngarde you will not return. Fate drives you, but you follow your own path. Choose wisely, lest you wander into evil.
By Malakath, now Teloth has spoken to the founder of the Greybeards, the teacher of his teachers, and also an ancient enemy of his people. Teloth roams the hallowed halls of Shor, conversing with the many heroes of Sovngarde. And since he has been in Skyrim for some time reading their lore, he can't help but be in awe of them, but also feels out of place given he is a Dark Elf and not a Nord. He also feels a very peaceful but strange feeling, unable to draw his weapons or think any violent or negative thoughts. Very strange indeed. Teloth also notices that Shor himself is absent, but Olaf One-Eye explains this.
Shor's high seat stands empty. His mien is too bright for mortal eyes.
So Teloth cannot see Shor, but he is still there. Being a Telvanni, Teloth investigates this, but finds himself sitting in Shor's throne, unimpeded, and no one in this hall seems to mind. What could this mean? Is Olaf One-Eye lying? Is his sight in question, given the one eye? Is he stupid? Or could Teloth be related to Shor in some way? A doom-driven incarnation of him, just like how the Nerevarine was the incarnation of Lord Indoril Nerevar. Maybe this is why that ghost from Old Heraldin confused him with Hjalti, or Tiber Septim. But there Teloth goes again with the theories. Those must wait, for he is here to slay Alduin and become the ultimate dragon slayer. And so he meets Paarthurnax's old friends for a second time.
At long last, Alduin's doom is now ours to seal. Just speak the word, and with high hearts, you'll hasten forth to smite the worm wherever he lurks.
Hold, comrades. Let us counsel take before battle is blindly joined. Alduin's mist is more than a snare. Its shadowy gloom is his shield and cloak. But with 4 voices joined, our valor combined, we can blast the mist and bring him to battle.
Feldir speaks wisdom. The World-Eater, coward, fears you, Dragonborn. We must drive away his mist, shouting together. and then unsheath our blades in desperate battle with our black-winged foe.
And so Teloth, heroic dead allies in hand, ventures beyond the halls of valor to rip the World-Eater from his hiding, and bend and break him with steel, magic, and voice.
The eyes of Shor are upon you this day. Defeat Alduin and destroy his soul snare.
Together, 4 voices become one and clear away the mist to draw the cowardly god from his hiding. The world-eating worm calls the mist back twice more, but Teloth and his allies are persistent and keep clearing it, like cleaning a cup of canis root tea. And Alduin arrives, summoning thunder and fire from the sky, but Teloth is strong, especially with his allies, and uses Dragonren to rip him from the sky down to his level. Teloth strikes the worm god again and again and again, with nothing but certainty and confidence in his eyes. Teloth is doom-driven. Teloth is Ysmir. Teloth is Dragonborn. And above all, Teloth is Telvanni incarnate. And then, with one more strike from his katana, Alduin is finally defeated.
They will sing of this battle in Shor's Hall forever, but your fate lies elsewhere. When you have completed your count of days, I may welcome you again with glad friendship and bid you join the blessed feasting.
All hail the Dragonborn! Hail him with great praise!
Teloth has done it. He has defeated Alduin and saved the world. At least for a little while anyway, for the remainder of his lifetime, he hopes. Teloth walks around Sovngarde taking everything in and thinking. He has accomplished what he has set out to do and became a legend in the process. But unlike the souls of lesser dragons, Teloth did not absorb the soul of Alduin. It seemed to have been taken by another, or perhaps his soul has been purified. Alduin is the Nordic interpretation of Akatosh, so perhaps he has been restored. Teloth does not know, and he feels very weary, and while glad-hearted, wishes to go home, but first he says farewell to his allies.
Even here, where heroes throng, few can match this mighty deed. What glory! The gods themselves must envy us this well-earned honor.
Our ancient debt for Alduin's reprieve is now repaid. The long night is ended.
I'll look for you, friend, when at last you return to Shor's Hall. The honor will be ours when you rejoin the ranks of Sovngarde.
And now it is time for Teloth to return to the land of the living and sleep like he is dead.
Return now to Nirn, with this rich boon from Shor, my lord. A shout to bring a hero from Sovngarde in your hour of need.
But when Teloth is shouted back to Nirn, he is brought to the peak of the throat of the world, where dozens of dragons have gathered, chanting in the dragon tongue.
Sorot fur kanaran.
Teloth has a deeper understanding of the dragon tongue now, and the dragons are cheering in a strange way. That Teloth has vanquished Alduin, and now they are free from his tyranny to chart their own course, for good or ill. And Teloth suspects he has yet to slay his last dragon. Teloth then speaks to his mentor, his teacher, Paarthurnax.
So, it is done. Alduin, Dilon. The eldest is no more. he who came before all others, and has always been.
Though his teacher does not sound as pleased as he expected.
Happy? No, I am not happy. Zeh mahi lost ondul bormahu. Alduin was once the crown of our father Akatosh's creation. You did what was necessary. Alduin had flown far from the path of right action in his pachlok, in the arrogance of his power. But I cannot celebrate his fall. Zutiraz ach ochma. He was my brother once. This world will never be the same.
Well, regardless, the world and Teloth himself are better off with him gone.
Perhaps. At least it will continue to exist. Greek Lochlein. And, as you told me once, the next world will have to take care of itself. Ful Nilos. Even I cannot see past time's ending. But I forget myself. Crosis, solos midfadon. Melancholy is an easy trap for a Dova to fall into. You have won a mighty victory, Shahroch Kongrach. One that will echo through all the ages of this world for those who have eyes to see. Savor your triumph, Dovahkiin. This is not the last of what you will write upon the currents of time. Goran, I feel younger than I have in many an age. Many of the Dovahkiin are now scattered across Kizal. Without Alduin's lordship, they may yet bow to the Vaxen, brightness of my Thum. But willing or no, they will hear it. Fare thee well, Dovahkiin.
Fare thee well, Master Paarthurnax. You have been the greatest teacher to Teloth since his last Telvanni master, Endar Drenum. Next, Odahviing has some words with Teloth, bowing to his power, no doubt.
Prusa Hundana wa Wuthgain. I wish the Old One luck in his quest. But I doubt many will wish to exchange Alduin's lordship for the tyranny of Paarthurnax's way of the voice. As for myself, you've proven your mastery twice over. Thuri Dovahkiin. I gladly acknowledge the power of your Thum. Zu Odahviing. Call me when you have need, and I will come if I can.
Teloth may have given up Odahviing as a pet, but now he has gained an ally, and Teloth's power and status has only increased. Next, Teloth meets back up with Lydia to regale her with his stories of defeating Alduin. And then he speaks to Arngeir, his second favorite mentor.
I can see it in your eyes. You've seen the land of the gods and returned. Does this mean it is done? Is Alduin truly defeated?
Indeed, though Teloth does not know if a god like Alduin can ever be truly killed.
Perhaps, perhaps not. Dragons are not like normal mortal creatures, and Alduin is unique, even among dragon kind. He may be permitted to return at the end of time to fulfill his destiny as the World-Eater. But that is for the gods to decide. You have done your part. You've shown yourself mighty, both in voice and deed. In order to defeat Alduin, you have gained mastery of dreadful weapons. Now it is up to you to decide what to do with your power and skill. Will you be a hero whose name is remembered in song throughout the ages? Or will your name be a curse to future generations? Or will you merely fade from history, unremembered? Let the way of the voice be your guide, and the path of wisdom will be clear to you. Breath and focus, Dragonborn. Your future lies before you.
Teloth may not follow the way of the voice as closely as the Greybeards would like. It goes against Telvanni philosophy, but he will remember their wisdom, and to make sure his arrogance and desire for power does not completely consume him. Now, before resting and charting his next course, he decides to speak to the Blades one final time and tell them of Alduin's downfall, and to say his final farewells, as he will not be slaying Paarthurnax.
We heard the news from Whiterun that you left the city on the back of a dragon. That's a little showy, even for you. Since you're still alive, I assume you have good news to report.
Teloth, Sovngarde, Alduin, it's already been said before.
Gods above, that's better news than I had hoped. When you walked into my inn that day, I never imagined where it would all lead. Dragons out of legend, Sovngarde.
You've done it. Just as the prophecy said. I knew you could do it. I believed in you, and yet I still didn't think I'd live to see this day. Thank you. Thank you, Dragonborn. You've done a great service for us all.
They then go on about demanding that Teloth slay Paarthurnax, but this Telvanni legend serves no one but himself, and Paarthurnax is more valuable than them. So Teloth departs Skyhaven Temple, a cold, empty ruin, never to return again. He returns to his plantation and harvests his crops and alchemical ingredients and collects his profits, which are quite sizable. Then he makes his way to his balcony and looks out into the fields of Whiterun, out into what the future holds, out into what more power he could acquire and how high he can rise in this cold, harsh land, and maybe one day return to House Telvanni and regain his status and maybe even become a magister. But that, my dear viewer, is a story for another day. For now, Teloth goes to his bed and closes his eyes. He has definitely earned some much-needed rest. And that was all I wrote. The story of Teloth Telvanni and his rise as Dragonborn, but also as an outsider within Skyrim. More true to his foreign Telvanni beliefs while also slowly acclimating himself with Nordic customs, history, and culture. I would like to thank you very much if you've made it this far into the video. This has taken me about a month to make, and I am very proud of this project. I haven't played Skyrim normally in some time, and this project was an excuse to do that, and still feel productive as well. And I'm very glad I did, especially because I can use the footage gathered for future videos as well, like maybe about Alduin or Paarthurnax and the like. If this video does do well, I would also like to make more on all the factions and DLCs and perhaps even some mods as well. All from the perspective of Teloth Telvanni. And if you want to make sure this can become a saga, be sure to share this video wherever you can, as that would be most appreciated. And you know who else I appreciate? My channel members, and they are... Mirak, The Proud Prince, Malani Stilla, Carson Friday, Dalton Rupert, Cosmo, Jorinish Evento, Serene Molly, Doc Smoothie, Shinigami James, Gretums, Winter Raven, Vivid Void, Argentis, Metal Health, Blancfall, Henry O'Dim, Sovdark, Gillernt, Grud, Ranger Squad, Luxie, Abdullah the Goat, Kaden, Kirill Gaming, Flexi, Grabowski, Bane Hellborn, Katie Harper, The Ember Raven, Joran Eris Targaryen, Awea Ann, Elia J, Drink Tea With Me, Tonic, 24 Seconds, Enclave Personnel, Foodening, Legend Killer, Pillsbury Drew Boy, Dustbite Opossum, and Saver. Now, I've lost my voice doing this project, so excuse me if this outro isn't as loud and grandiose, but with all that being said, make sure to like the like button, like the subscribe button, and like the bell notification down below to be updated on future videos. And I will see you whenever the fuck I decide to upload again. House Telvanni be with you.
Please, O hero of Skyrim, I shall be ever so grateful.